Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast number 121. I'm your host, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V. And unlike the regular situation, we are actually in different cities.
We are. We're not too far apart. I can still smell you here. We've got
Oh, you're welcome.
Big Head Terry and the Monster on the left, and me on the right. But yeah, you're at home. You're kind of like me. You're not feeling 100% today.
Yeah, I'm feeling around 9%, if
Ooh.
I had to guess. I've had a very rough day. It has not been incredibly productive. I attempted to shift some things around and start getting my office a little bit more in order, including moving some discs. In the meantime, I managed to spill some beverages. I managed to break a thing or two, and just before the show, I managed to spill some more stuff.
You were.
It's not been the best of days. I
Oh.
think I need to hit reset on today overall.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I was at work today. Yesterday, I spent like 4 hours on a conference call to get some garbage to work with our new phone system. And today, the exact same thing took me about 32 minutes. So today's been much better. I took a quick hour-long drive to find. I drove Terry style on the way to there. What do you think that means?
Um, I would guess for those that have traveled with me in the past that have had to, I would guess that your car was so full that you probably A, wasn't legal, B, wasn't safe, and C, couldn't see out any of the windows because you had so much merchandise and fun goodies to bring to someone.
No, 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 no. Close. Just the opposite of full. I rode on empty. I didn't
Oh,
notice.
that way.
I didn't notice that my car was very low on gas. I passed up an exit, and I looked down, and I was like, "Oh, crud!" Like it's not good when your red needle is below the blue E. And I was like, "Oh crap!" Like, yeesh. Well, all right. I'll just hit the next exit. And I pull up my phone and I go to Google Maps. And I hit. I'll find gas station. Next gas station, 12 and a half miles. And I was like,
Mm.
"Oh." So I started voxing some people saying I might run out of gas. And thankfully, I was able to coast in. I did the old Terry Miller trick. I threw it into neutral a few times on some downhills.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that really saves me any gas, but it can't
Oh, I'm
hurt.
sure it does.
But it can't hurt. And I coasted into the gas station, which was a little out of my way, with just over half a gallon to put in. I filled up my 11-gallon tank, went to just under like 10.4, 10 point,
See,
I think it's
which
10.4. So
is
half a
something
gallon.
that's funny. Besides the fact that you said crud, as people have pointed out, um, I you and I have had this conversation for years. It's funny how different we are. Not only do you not even care about gas prices
No, I
or pay attention to them,
I did notice that was just over $2 a gallon, 209 where I filled up.
good job. The fact that you don't know, like, to me, that's something I'm very conscious of. I think that goes along with gas prices. I'm always kind of
Uh,
double checking or thinking, okay, I'm going to get X amount of miles out of this tank, and therefore I
mm,
should be right around here at this time. And if it's drastically off, then I think then I'll know that there's something up. But you don't
uh,
pay attention to
no,
any of that, and it blows my mind.
no, because I've told you this before, and for those that don't know me, I treat gas like I treat milk. If it's $2 a gallon or if it's $12 a gallon, I'm buying it. Now, if it were $12 in one place and two in another, of course I would make the effort to go somewhere different. If it's $2.09 one place versus $2.14 somewhere else, the 4 cents times 10 gallons, the 40 cents I'm going to save makes no difference to me. So the fact that people care so much about gas prices, I
I don't
understand,
know if it's a matter
but
about caring
but I
about
just
them
don't.
because I'm
I'm going to buy it anyway. Like I said,
for someone
it's
who
like
claims to
milk.
be so knowledgeable, though,
I
you
am.
would think you'd be aware of the prices. I'm not saying you need to be the value shopper.
Yeah.
I'm saying you should have some,
Oh,
like on any
but
given day of
it's
this
one.
week, you could
Yeah.
call me and I'll tell you
Sure.
roughly how much gas
It.
is in my tank
Oh yeah. I
and
didn't
what
even
the
know.
gas station is charging down the road from me.
For those of you that can't see, there's Terry's videos cropped, so they really literally have to be in front of him in order to see. But his two daughters are there, well past their bedtime.
As always.
As always. So on your right, you see Mackenzie, and on your left, barely, you see Allison. So hi, kids. I'm going to come around and say it. It's a slow news week. Terry and I are talking about gas prices and talking about different habits. But anyway, Terry's known for tending to push the envelope as far as driving. I'm not. Today I was driving for work, so I got to fill up on the company card anyway. But 9 times out of 10, I don't let my tank get below quarter tank anyway. So I don't care about gas prices and blah, blah, blah. So it's just the way I roll. It's not my thing.
Right.
I've got
well,
1,000
yes,
other things.
As Johnny V just mentioned, my 2 girls who do not do a good job of going to bed when they're supposed to.
No, we are.
I've got Miss Mackenzie. Tell everyone hi and how old you are.
Hi, I'm 5.5.
She's 5.5, and her PDGA number is 50738. And this is
Allie,
And you're how old?
8.
All right, and your PDG. And you're going to start playing some tournaments when Dad's home to take you to one. Sound good? All right, see, people are saying hi to you guys.
Yeah, I can read all the comments.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can.
see anything.
Well, you see them. You can't read like she can. See what they're saying?
Yeah.
Liz Lopez has a real problem with kids. She's not the nicest person out there. So I'm just kidding. But they're saying hi, and YouTube live bombing. You two know all too much about video bombing and such, don't you?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello,
See?
Tyler. Hi, Tyler. That's our cousin's name.
Yes, it is.
And
The
they have starred in a few Disc Golf Guy videos. You know, they've done.
Yes.
Allison did the impersonations. The Ricky
Yes,
Raptor legs was a favorite by a lot of people.
Remember when you did the Raptor legs, Ricky Wysocki? Are we going to do more impersonations for disc golfers?
Sure.
All right. That sounds like a plan. All right, girls. Can you say good night to everybody here before you guys go to bed?
Good night. Adios, adios, adios.
Okay,
adios.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm about to cut him off.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
I'm cutting
All
him
right.
off.
See you tomorrow or next Tuesday.
Yeah. All right, get out of here.
We'll be here again.
No, you won't.
Have a good night, people.
This is
Well,
why
wait.
Terry tends to come over to my house
All right.
to do this stuff, because as much as Terry has a slightly home studio, he usually comes over to the quiet studio to take care of things where he doesn't have to worry about other things.
Well, more often than not. Well, yeah. Anyway.
So Terry, what have you heard in the world? We're 10 minutes in. What have you heard in the world of disc golf this week?
Well, I guess I'm going to start off with a couple things. Let's go with an announcement, which was referenced a little bit earlier tonight. Next week on the show, when we do have a little bit more scheduled content, we're going to have the likes of Keith Murray, the Hall of Famer Dan Ginley, and I believe maybe Ashley, all stepping inside the Smashbox. What they're going to do next week live on our show, so they haven't pre-picked these or pre-planned it, live on our show, they're going to pull 4 golden tickets, as they're called, and those are going to be the 4 people that are going to earn a free entry into the 2017 Discraft Memorial Championships. Now, when I was out in Phoenix a few weeks ago, I said, yeah, I'd like to buy one to support it, to get a Jawbreaker buzz, because they were the only people in the country with them. And I said, clearly, I don't think I'll be able to play. I think I'll be busy doing other things that week. And they said, the winning is transferable. So if somebody wants to go out and get a Jawbreaker buzz, they have until tomorrow night to do so. Go to spinnersonthegreen.com, get a Jawbreaker buzz, and then if you happen to win a free golden ticket, regardless of division, amateur, pro, doesn't matter, regardless of the division, it will actually be transferable, and you could give that to someone else. You could sell it off, raffle it off, whatever you want, but it could go to someone else if you're the person that won that can't go for whatever reason. So next week, right here on our show, again, the guys from Spinners on the Green, they're going to join us, and they're going to pick the golden tickets. There's 4 of them out of, I want to say like 1,500 discs or something like that. So I would definitely go out and, make sure you get one. I think it only goes till tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah, for
So
sure. Go out, support them, support the, the memorial, get your chance to get your golden ticket.
Yeah, so I have heard that. I think that's pretty cool, and we love working with those guys. Obviously, Smashbox covering the Memorial the last few years. We're looking forward to this year, the kickoff of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We're going to be doing all of those things, so definitely go out, get yourself, and possibly earn your free entry into the Memorial. And what's even better about that is you're not going to have the fight to try to make sure you get registered. I think they'll tell us next week, but I think registration for that opens in a couple weeks as well. And so with you getting the golden ticket, you'll already be in and good to go. So um, the other, I guess, I don't think it's a quick thing. The other thing I'd like to get into real quickly though is my event this last weekend.
Ooh, the cold turkey, the one that I ended up skipping out on.
Yeah, well, I wasn't.
It
It was less than 60 degrees out, so I didn't figure your wimpy little self would find yourself on the course.
It actually had thankfully nothing to do with the with the temperature. It actually came down to timing with some family things that we had going on, and even though we were in town, we got. I ended up getting. My wife had to leave, which I found out Friday. And so Saturdays didn't work out for me, and I didn't really dedicate it. I didn't tell you I was going to come. I kind of just put it out there like, maybe I'll come. And I really did want to, because Saturday afternoon I was really jonesing, which I was really glad that you put the results out there as quickly as you did.
Okay, well, so I'm going to go ahead and I gave the same speech both days, but to run through our people that help make it possible. I'd like to thank Innova. I'd like to thank Discraft. I'd like to thank Boom Clothing. I'd like to thank Night Eyes and the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And then we even had a little Smashbox representation with some sweet Smashbox towels that were included in the player packs. So all of those different items. Hey, get out of here. All of those different items, and it was pretty sweet. Okay. And so I'm going to get to it with some results. And this was again in southeastern Wisconsin, Kenosha County Parks, one of my favorite places to host events at. And we're going to start. Saturday was a little lighter. We had 42 on Saturday, and we had 68 on Sunday.
No.
Okay, go.
Adios.
Yeah.
Adios.
For those who can't imagine, she's the challenging one. Anyway, Grandmasters, Trent McPherson won. This is Advanced Grands. Michelle Hensel won in Advanced Women. Anthony Ippolito won in Advanced. Masters, Johnny Rumble, who's Grandmaster's age, moved into the Masters division to take it down in a playoff over Sang Park. Barrett White did what Barrett White does, and she won. She won by 16 over our furthest traveled competitor, who was a female, and that's Lisa Warner. Who did she have? She at least had the third lowest PDGA number there, 9519. And David Heasley with an honorable mention, getting knocked off his throne from last year. Al Hermosillo second, and Sean Butler, who does a ton of work on the course. He helps out. He's a great ambassador for the course. He's kind of like a course liaison down there. And as I said, if you don't believe in karma, there's a good reason to believe in it, because he does a lot of good things out there. And then he turned around and turned it on second round, shot 998 and 1017 to win in the somewhat small open division. So solid play, good day, gorgeous weather. A lot of people are talking about the weather around the country this weekend.
Warm.
And even this week. And overall, it was pretty darn warm. It was in the 40s for late November, and I don't think anybody can really complain about that too much. So, and real quick, I'm going to run through the amateur side. We had 42 on Saturday, which was all the advanced divisions plus all the pro divisions. Sunday, we were nearly sold out at 68 competitors. So over the 2 days, 110 people. I know our pal Dana would probably just do it all on one day and host like 10 ghost cards or something silly like that. But I split them up over the 2 days, 110 people. And if I can get to that in 1 second, I would like to. Here we go. One of our Ironmen, a guy that played Pro Masters on Saturday, was eligible to play intermediate on Sunday, and he just can't get enough golf. Scott McHale, who's also a great ambassador, he won it on Saturday with 108 on the day, shooting a dead even. Brad Johnson took rec. Michael Phillips took a novice. Phaedra took first in advanced women. And we had a 7-person junior boys division. And that may not sound like a lot, but I think for the late November, kind of at a course that's in the middle of nowhere, to have 7 junior boys come out and play was pretty awesome. And Benjamin Peliotis was your winner there. So, and thanks to David Heasley, I know he's a math teacher for a lot of these kids. He actually got a handful of them signed up and then came out and caddied for a few of them during his first round. So overall, good guy.
Props to him for sure.
So that's the Cold Turkey 11. It was awesome. It was fun. We had great weather. We had I had pizza delivered. I'll admit I did something I don't think I've ever done before, and which is a lot to say in 20-some years of disc golf. I did a trophy-only huge player pack and no payout. And for the most part, every person I spoke to, now granted not everyone came forward, but every person I spoke to said that they really thoroughly enjoyed that. Now, granted, maybe those were a lot of the people that finished in the bottom 1/2 of their given division.
Well, yeah,
but
nothing wrong with it.
They said that they really enjoyed it, and it was almost too much of a player pack. I got to admit, when I did the math and the numbers, it didn't make a lot of sense how I did it. I think on the PDGA's chart, when I punched it all in and was doing the scores,
you broke the chart.
I think it said like the amateur value was like 204%. So I'm sure they think I did something right. I'm not sure that I did, but it was good to do. It was kind of a cool experiment, and overall, I think everybody enjoyed it. I see David Heasley's on the board saying that his students, in fact, loved getting the players pack. Also, our good friend in Smashy, Dan Harbeck, came out and he played on Saturday, and him and his wonderful wife, Annette, they provided some donuts and coffee. And I told everyone on Sunday, I said, you played on the wrong day because yesterday we had free donuts and coffee thanks to Dan Harbeck. So thanks to Dan and everyone else that contributed, and Tom McManus and Johnny Rumble and anyone else that had any part. Jesse Dixon helped me out. So thanks to all those people.
How's your shoulder?
My shoulder?
Yeah. I didn't know if you strained it patting yourself on the back or not right there. All right. Enough about the Cold Turkey Open. Let's talk about the only real big event that was taking place other than the Cold Turkey in the world, and that is, I mean, I guess you call it a big event. It's a B tier. It's the Australian Disc Golf Championships. That was located we're looking at Sydney, Australia. Hosted tournament director Neil Roberts. There was 10 open men, and there were no open women there, or FPO, so to speak. Being the Australian champion, the winner down under, Patrick Robinson, shooting a 13 under par, 13 strokes better than second place Chris Hill, who shot an even. It looked like Patrick, who's rated 964, came out and shot, if you include the finals, 3,000 rated rounds. The finals looked like it was only, 9 holes. And the first round was 956. So shooting well above his rating. Congratulations to Patrick Robinson winning that down under. Our own good friend and friend of the show, Chris Finn from Dude. He ended up in 5th place, just missing cash in the finals.
Ooh.
So unfortunate to him, but looks like he's back home having a good time now. He shot 4 over, so he only missed cash by 2 strokes. So congratulations out there in the advanced field. So the advanced Australian champion was Cameron Ford. Congratulations, Cameron, shooting a 17 over par, beating Brian Lee Clevinger by 1 stroke, who shot an 18 over par. And Cameron Ford is rated 890. Brian Lee is rated 926. So taking down the local favorite, it looks like, the highest rated advanced player in the field. Congratulations to them. Advanced women, Emily Cameron. It looks like it might be Emily, but it's kind of spelt funny, so I'm going to go with Emily Cameron. Advanced Masters, Aaron Curtis. Advanced Grandmasters, Bruce McDaughton. Senior Grandmasters, David Heath. And Intermediate, Tannel Lewick. Intermediate Women, Emma Winkforth. Novice, Tomas Dolzin. Novice Women, Janghi Bay. And Junior Boys, Thomas Pride. I forgot to roll through them. We don't have a lot of events going on. There were a lot of no surprise events this weekend with the word turkey in it, with the word Thanksgiving in it. Probably more Friday events than we normally see in a particular weekend. I'm counting just on the PDGA. I see 5 of them that are Friday only, and then the Australian was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So congratulations to all our winners this weekend. I don't know who won the Belgian Turkey, but that's out of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
But that's
nothing for nothing.
Michael Joe won that one particularly, and then actually that's a pretty big event. I kind of just popped in there, but I didn't expect one to be this big. So, what were you saying, Ter?
Nothing. I was just saying that my name's been the same now for 11 years. I'm not a newcomer to the whole. It's an interesting weekend to host a tournament, and clearly, if I go back and look, some years it's been split day, and some days it's been single day. I would have to say I have to be averaging a minimum of 70 to 80 people for that event over the 11 years. Again, whether it's single day or split day. Tom McManus, PDGA 1276, the only competitor, I believe, that's attended all 11 of them.
Very nice.
But it's an interesting weekend to hold a tournament, especially here in Wisconsin. I mean, I think if it were...
Weather could be anything.
Or if it was going to be more south, I think it would be a no-brainer, and I think you'd probably always be guaranteed to have a really good field and turnout, but it's been hit or miss. But we've been really blessed to have some really solid weather up here in Wisconsin for all those years. So,
well, I'll quickly talk about the Belgian Turkey, seeing as I clicked on it, and it does have a pretty big turnout for players. It's got 25 open players. Taking down the championship was Michael Johansson, rated 1024, the odds-on favorite, the highest-rated player there, winning $670. Chris Dickerson, second place by a stroke, tied with Logan Bowers. Fourth place, Dustin Perry. Fifth place, Dylan Brazil, with no rating. Joey Lutz and John Riley. In the open women, there was a competitive field of 3. We saw Ashley Collins take that down, shooting a 13 over par, followed up by Kelly Tucker with an 18 over, and one of the names that for some reason, every time I look at it, I think Jennifer Love Hewitt, but it's actually Jennifer Lovett. So I don't know why I think of that every time I see it. It's because I grew up in the 90s and the 80s. So Jennifer Lovett shooting a 25 over par and taking third place. Winning Masters, Jake Nye. And that's where we will leave that particular event. So congratulations to the Michael Joe, winner of the Belgian Turkey.
Sweet. I was catching a little flack in Wisconsin. There was a $500 ace pool. Many of you guys know Madison, Wisconsin, due to being here for the Am Worlds just this last year. Well, at I believe it was High Stand Park, they host a random draw doubles, and the ace pool hadn't been hit in a number of weeks, and I guess it was up to $500. So plenty of people were excited to rush over to that. And when it was all said and done, there were 3 separate aces, and I believe they split them. Each team does, so it came out to like $68 or $83 a person, something like that, roughly. So it's not too bad, but big event taking place. So it's kind of funny to see non-sanctioned, but yet a $500 ace pool to take home before the course gets pulled for the year. So
it's pretty nice, pretty big.
Not bad at all. All right. One of the other, we could get right into it, I would say, and it just happened in the last few hours. So some of you may already be versed to it, some weren't, but no surprise, it spawned quite a conversation. Greg Barsby made a post.
Oh, yeah.
Just a few hours ago. Basically, I should find it so I don't have to paraphrase it because I don't want to.
I was going to paraphrase it, but that's fine.
But I'll just go ahead and read it. Now maybe actually be gone unless I'm looking at the wrong Greg Barsby. Basically, Greg Barsby said, "Hey, I'm trying to go to Australia, looking for ways to raise money and to get myself there. Looking for suggestions or ideas or whatever."
He basically says, "I need some help funding the Aussie Open trip. Not a single kick down means I ask you guys. Any thoughts on how I can make it happen? And some people took it as he was maybe asking for a handout. When he clarified it, more or less said, I'm not looking for a handout. I have sponsors. I'm looking for creative ways that I can earn money. So whether that maybe be selling signed discs or maybe drumsticks or something like that, because he's a big drummer and this and that. Maybe, I don't know, sign some death metal CDs and send them out to people. But yeah, so he got a pretty big response. He got about 80 comments on there because he needs someone said GoFundMe, which again that's just borderline begging for money in my opinion. But
well, that became kind of dare I say, I think that almost became the default answer in that a lot of people, because we've seen that so much before,
yeah,
and we've seen it be successful for various people, and everyone has their take, whether they really like the idea or they really hate the idea. So everyone has their take as to if a GoFundMe is in fact the right methodology. And yeah, I'm getting better at not inserting myself into certain things, but there was a comment made that specifically touched on media, and that's where I finally chimed in. And I think it was in fact by Greg himself, and I should see if I can find it here for you. But that's where I thought, well, wait a minute, hold on. First of all, he said he wasn't pleased with how a lot of snide comments came in and backhanded ideas, people not taking it real serious. He was a little frustrated with that, which I totally understand, because I think he was genuinely, looking out or asking for some assistance with ideas. But the comment, and he also addresses the idea when a lot of people said, "Hey, man, why don't you just basically go get a job?" And he said, "Well, I'm trying to be the best and compete with the best. Therefore, I need to practice, and that doesn't mean going out and having a full-time job. And I've done a lot of other things inside of disc golf, outside of disc golf. So just getting a job isn't necessarily the right answer either." He said, "By the way, no kickback for all those sweet YouTube videos where most people watch the game now regularly. Did you know? These guys filming the tournament get paid more than the players. I'm going to keep stirring this crock pot."
I didn't follow this very much, but I chuckle. First of all, I chuckle at that we make more than a lot of the players. Sure,
Yeah,
if you're taking bottom cash, maybe those videos will earn a little bit more money than your bottom cash after a couple months. Some of the bigger events, your really big crews, your Jomez, maybe us, we are paid to go there, but I guarantee you we're not making a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, and I kind of went off on that whole thing, and I said, even if even because he clarified later and said, "Well, what about even expenses?" And I said, "Sure, sometimes expenses are paid, but I bet you I slept on more floors than you did this year." And
yeah.
and just because some expenses are paid doesn't mean they're all paid, and that doesn't mean you're necessarily coming out ahead. And we kind of had this good little banter back and forth. It was nothing derogatory or whatever. And I said, the only reason why is because we've sacrificed, and I've sacrificed, we all have sacrificed certain things to get to this point too. That meant years without getting a dime from anyone. And now clubs and organizations and tournaments themselves and the PDGA and vendors and manufacturers see value in what we're all doing within the video media, and therefore we can be compensated for it. And I basically said, you got plenty of hustle in you, Greg, and I think you just need to hustle a little harder to make it happen.
Yeah.
It was a really good point back and forth, and we're all good, and we never weren't good.
Oh, no.
I kind of take offense to someone, and ultimately, I guess really what I said too was, what does it matter if I made six figures this year, or if I made negative six figures? That doesn't impact how well you play golf or where you're playing golf. So it's not really fair, I think, to drag disc golf media even into the conversation, because it really has nothing to do with him trying to get to Australia.
Correct.
So,
but maybe He's kind of a small guy. He might be able to crawl in with the Jomez crews into one of their crates, and go that way, because they might be heading out there. I don't know for sure, but they might be heading out there, he said, and that'd be a way for him to get out there.
There you go. And Liz Lopez on the board says Australia is not, with like 6 O's, not cheap, but absolutely worth it. Just hard to get out there and only spend a short amount of time in a pretty remote part of the continent. And I think it's really no secret. I'd love to get there at some point, but I'm not going out there on my own dime and trying to hunt down a tournament to go film. If somebody wants to work with the Disc Golf Guy or Smashbox and it happens, that'd be great. But until then, it doesn't look like Australia's in the cards for me. So
here's what I'll say about the argument. Some people, and I understand his point of view, where some people say, why don't you go get a job? And he's like, well, I'm trying to compete against the best in the world. No matter what you're doing, you're taking time away to raise money. Unless you're flat out given money, unless you do a GoFundMe where people then just donate money, which, again, I'm not against. It's not my style. That's fine if you want to do it. I would prefer if I donate $10, I get a mini. Give me something, like sell something, at least this custom assign.
Well,
and then there's that. That's my thought. But even that takes time and effort. So I don't know. It's a job could as well take time out of your day. A part-time job, driving 3 to 4 hours a day, delivering subs. Just just take that. Something you can just pick up and do. You need no experience. You're not. I feel bad, but you're not out there practicing 10 hours a day.
Well, and I just think, generically speaking, everyone just got to decide what's what's most important to them.
Exactly.
In terms of how much time you want to put into it. I wish Barsby the best of luck. I wish anyone that's on tour. No one that's on tour has it easy.
No, not at all.
And we all know it's incredibly difficult. One of the conversation pieces that kind of circles around every time GoFundMe is brought up is always the idea of, well, it's kind of like you're a fan of that person and you're supporting them that way. And I think that's fine. If that's the mentality you want to take, I think that's perfectly fine. What I would think would be interesting, and this by no means am I picking on or Barsby or anyone, what I think would be interesting with like a GoFundMe setup would be almost if it was treated like a short-term loan and or investment, meaning let's just say he did a GoFundMe and let's say he got $3,000 from that. He goes on his trip, and then if or when he cashes, that $3,000 could be paid back.
Well,
and I know
I'll say
a
this.
tall order.
Well, you're never, for a trip like that, even winning, you're probably not paying your expenses.
Maybe not.
I mean, more than likely. I mean, the winner of that's probably going to pull home $2,500.
Yeah, see, that's just it.
Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe $5,000 because it's a major. I'm not positive, and again, nobody knows the numbers yet. But my guess it'll be one of those two numbers: $2,500 or $5,000. You're still. It's going to cost you probably. You're right. Probably $2,000, maybe $2,500 just to get out there and stay. I don't know what a plane ticket costs. My guess is $1,500 to $1,700.
Yeah, probably.
Based on what experience we've had in the past. So if you want to go do a GoFundMe and consider it fan support, that's great. If you want to do something like Terry said, run a GoFundMe and then somehow find a way to pay it back, I guess that's fine too. But
let me clarify. That's only assuming you cash.
Correct.
So if you go there and take dead last, I mean, people aren't giving you $3 saying, oh God, I can't wait till you give me back that $3 or that $3.30 because there's a 10% payback. Clearly that's not their ultimate, their motive. They want to give for the sake of giving. I just think it would be an interesting proposition as you're looking at it more like a loan or an investment that may not pay back. And everyone's aware of that because it's predicated on how he plays.
Of course.
But I don't know. I don't know if you get more people to donate or not. But it's just another interesting way to look at it. I mean, then let's look at the bigger picture. Like exclude the Barsby name on this whole conversation and say, who are those events for? Like you just said it. If you're talking
Mm-hmm.
$1,700, let's call it 15. We'll go low. $1,500 flight plus lodging plus whatever else it's going to cost you to be there. And if you win, you can't even break even. Who are these events even really for then? Should you be worried about going to them? And again, take Barsby's name out. I'll say that to anyone. Just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It financially, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. I mean, we've known that about almost any overseas event. It just financially, they don't make sense unless you can go and make a small tour of it, like in Europe. That makes sense to me. Like you can go and play 3, 4, 5 events in a 2-month period,
and maybe do some signings and have some product demos.
Yep.
And get paid for some other performances or paid for appearances or something like that. I don't know how it financially makes sense. And if you really want to treat disc golf like a full-time job or profession or business, you can't say, well, yeah, there's these 8 things on the calendar that sound great. I'm going to go lose money at every single one of those. How quick do I sign up?
Yeah,
like it just doesn't make sense.
It's you have to weigh your options. We all know that. You have to pick and choose. Are you in this to make it a business, or are you in this as a hobby?
Well, so we've got, a great example. Brian Schweberger is out there. Welcome, Schwebby. Good to see you in the chat board as always.
I found the cheapest flight at $1,490 for January.
Schwebby says Alaska is worth the trip, and I was graciously brought to Alaska this year, and I got to experience it along with Schwebby, who's been going for a number of years, and I can't say enough about that experience. And that's just it. If you're going there and saying, okay, it's going to be a $4,000 trip at best, I'm going to win $1,000 back. If you're okay with saying, I'm going to go to Australia and it's $3,000 out of my pocket, but I get an Australian experience, then fine, as long as that. But again, if you're looking at this as a profession and as a career and as a dollars and cents mechanism, it's clearly not a viable proposition. And it doesn't make sense.
And again, I'm going to go out and this may ruffle a few feathers, but it's nothing to Barsby personally at all, or even him, period. Maybe these people need to, we all say how the media needs to value themselves. Maybe these people need to value themselves for their sponsors. Like he did go and said, earlier he posted like, hey, I want to thank my 4 sponsors that I could not have made it through last year. And that's great. And I'm happy he's got these sponsors, but if your sponsors aren't doing enough for you to get you to these events, they're not getting the exposure of you playing well. So maybe you need to ask more from your sponsor in order to project better on them. And it's a fine line because everyone knows if you ask for too much, you're going to get turned down. If you ask for too little, it's not worth it. So I lay this a little bit more on the sponsors. It's nice to have them.
Around though and say, and this is a generic question for another day, a much more in-depth conversation. But
we got time, buddy.
Our providers? What are our players truly offering back to the sponsors? I think that's a question that also needs to be answered. We need to hold some feet to the fire and say, okay.
It's the same thing any other sponsor. If you're a NASCAR person and your Mountain Dew is your sponsor, when you step into the winner's circle, you thank Mountain Dew with a big 2-liter in your hand, and you pour it on your head, and hey, thanks for the support. Yeah, I know you're dreaming of the Mountain Dew Rain, not Rain, the generic Mountain Dew.
Dew. Mountain Twist or whatever
it is. And that's in theory what they're hopefully getting out of it. And then here's a thought that I've had for a little while. The sponsors also need to take advantage of the players, give them more, but then when you get the chance, force them to sit with you, force them to do commercials for you, force them to do even quick little YouTube or Facebook slots, help promote your brand. If company A is sponsoring a player, that company A should be getting more value out of that. They should be sitting down like, hey, if we're going to be at the memorial, you're going to be at the memorial. We want 3 hours of your time. We're going to sit and cut 4 or 5 awesome spots that we're going to roll out throughout the next 6 months. And in return, we're going to give you X amount. because I don't see a lot of sponsors doing that. I don't see, the sponsors we see, the commercials we see, are usually self-made commercials. Like, look at, and the Dude commercials are some of the best ones out there. Hands down, they're professional looking. But why not use Barsby, who's I believe Dude sponsors Barsby, correct? I think Dude,
I think so.
I think Dude Clothing is one of Barsby's sponsors. Why not have Barsby cut some ads for you and then write that off and then give them a little more sponsorship? And I'm not saying Dude particular again. I'm just saying sponsors in general. I think it may help them to invest more in the players. So that's just my take on it. I've said it for a long time. I think the sponsors need to step up more, but they also need to ask more of the players. It's not just a one-sided conversation.
Well, and that's just it. I keep thinking, because we're gonna forever have this argument, because we see the major manufacturers, we see them sponsoring their players, and then there's usually anywhere from 1 to 5 other kind of complementary or supplementary sponsors, whatever you want to call them,
Yep.
that are usually a little bit smaller, and let's be real, generally can't even afford to sponsor some of these players. Half of them go out of business because they're throwing so much money at trying to get a big name, and then they just price themselves right out of business by giving this money away to these sponsors or to these players. I want to know. I want to see more give back overall from the players to the sponsors, so that the sponsors feel like, we're going to sponsor people X, Y, and Z. It's a no-brainer because they're going to do these things for us. I think there needs to be a little bit more give and take, because unfortunately the natural answer in our sport is always, well, the major manufacturers need to give them more money. Why?
I don't.
Why do they?
Yeah,
They need to give them more money if they see more value.
Exactly.
This is just generally speaking, and it could be by exactly the method you just said. Have them more involved with some of the media stuff. There's a lot of different things they could do to prove their worth to these to their sponsors.
Correct. Like I said, it's that door swings both ways. The players and sponsors, they both need to ask more of the relationship between each other, and the sponsors need to decide if it's worth it. If it's, and the players, if a player doesn't feel like he's getting his sponsorship worth, why is he with that sponsor other than be like, oh, I like to have a sponsor, even though they only give me X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I know every little bit helps.
Well, and it's funny because if you bring it around full circle, as Kevin Burgess says online right now, if you really bring it then back full circle and you say you want them to do more and possibly provide more exposure and provide more eyeballs and impressions, where are they going to do that? With the disc golf media.
Of course. Yep.
So the disc golf media is in fact, and that's all of us, we are in fact now becoming a more and more useful tool, and that's everyone. That's Jomez and Central Coast and Bobby Brown and everyone. We're becoming more of a resource and an asset as well, and that's one reason why we continue to say, we love working with companies and people that like working with us. We love that symbiotic relationship that just keeps on going.
Of course.
I don't know that everyone sees value in that either, and that's okay as well. But I think you're going to be kind of left behind if you don't see some of that value and recognize that.
Yeah, because
with any given media outlet.
even in major sports such as your basketball, baseball, NASCAR, the players during usually their off time will go and do big appearances for their sponsor, for Nike, for Reebok, for things like that. They might write it off as charity, they might write it off as anything, but they're still obligated to do some of those things, make appearances at different events, and that's maybe what needs to be asked of some of our players. Hey, from November through or February or something, we need you to do these three clinics with our big name on them in these 3 spots. Things like that. Again, just working together, I think, and with us particularly, with the media and the sponsors and the players. In theory, the media, we don't even really need to be involved because we're there to film the event usually. And when the player does well, they get on camera. And I always look at it like invest in the player. The player should, in theory, do better. They're going to get on camera more. Or have the player volunteer to do things such as, work with a CCDG and do commentary. Work with a Jomez and do commentary. Get your name out there. Get your brand. Get your sponsors out there. Get all that stuff out there. Work with your sponsor. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And
just my way. That's it.
Yeah, everyone should go your way because we've all learned how well that works. Anyway. So for those that are wondering, yes, not only are Johnny B and I in different places tonight, I am incredibly sick. I started feeling horrible Saturday night after my tournament on Saturday. Sunday, I didn't feel any better during the amateur day of the tournament. And lots of coughing, really dry, sore throat. I've tried all the over-the-counter stuff. So I'm nasally, I'm congested, I'm not congested. It's been a little bit of everything.
Tell me more.
I think I can't see myself right now, but I think I probably feel way worse than I even look, and I think I look pretty bad. So
no,
excuse me.
Actually, Terry, you don't look so bad on camera. I mean, the camera, you have a nice glow around you because of your webcam and the lights. So you're doing all right. You're not
all right. Well, there's definitely some questioning out there, and I understand. I am just overall not feeling good. And speaking of that, today here in Wisconsin, do we set records? 52, 57 degrees, something like that here?
I don't know. Like I said, I spent most of the time in my car and then in my office and then back in my car, and I rushed to get here. And I think I threw a pizza down my throat and then put my kids to bed and sat down here and loaded this up. I've not really seen the outside. It was
gorgeous out. I know there's talks all around the country about the weather that people have been having. So gorgeous out. I had no chance whatsoever to go out and partake in any of the nice weather. And someone asked if it was too much turkey. I was incredibly restrained. I'm definitely been eating a lot less here lately these last few weeks, and cutting back on a ton of stuff. And so it wasn't that. Picked the wrong day to start eating better. But I was very restrained throughout the holiday weekend. Yeah,
and Pablo says,
able to really call in sick.
Yeah, Pablo says, good job not calling in sick. We don't really have sick days here at Smashbox. One of the things I've learned is you guys have a lot of podcast options out there. Whether
some better than others, but
whether we're your favorite or whether we're your favorite.
Your favorite.
I mean,
yeah.
One of the things I've gathered is we sign an unwritten contract that we're here every Tuesday for you. If or if we have to push it back, maybe a Wednesday, depending on what travel days and stuff. And that's that's kind of one of the things that we try to do. We try to be here every week for you to give you as little news as we can.
As much random garbage.
Much random garbage.
And speaking of that, depending on how I feel, originally my plan was to have a special little subset podcast kind of thing on the Disc Golf Guy channel for Thursday night. Now, that's going to be completely dependent on how I feel at this point. I don't want to force it any more than I need to. But that is also the place where I'm planning on drawing. Some people have gone out and participated in the raffle, we'll say, or the random drawing that we talked about on the Disc Golf Guys fan page last week. I've got a ton of submissions out there. You have at least another day or two for sure to go out, randomly pick a number between 1 and 7,000. And then on Thursday night, if I, in fact, host something, that's where I'll be doing the drawing for that. So everybody can see what they're going to win there. So,
do you know how to do a podcast without me?
What's that?
Do you know how to do a podcast without me?
I did it one other time right following the Kansas City Wide Open.
I suppose, yeah, you figured out how to do the Hangout YouTube Live thing.
I did a Google Hangout, and it was wildly successful. Mostly people were saying it's refreshing to not have you there.
The best thing that they've ever heard, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, and that started as like a 20 or 30 minute update, and then it turned into like a 2 or 3 hour kind of podcast night. And if I do come up with something Thursday night, it'll be far more structured. It will be with a guest of sorts, and it would be very specific and structured.
Can I be your guest?
No, you cannot be my guest. It might be my kids, though. Excuse me.
I'm really
So
I'm really good at muting you, by the way. No one's even heard a single thing, so it's great.
okay,
Um,
good. Well, I'm not coughing my lungs
so
off then.
the only, and like I said, we're scrapping here, boys, today and girls. The only other thing that I saw this particular week that I thought was really kind of cool, was this table. Did you see the tabletop disc golf?
I did. I actually
How
sat and watched the entire video.
So did I. Basically, for those of you, I'm gonna throw it over here in front of Terry. So bye, Terry.
Yeah.
For those of you that are aware of it, there's basically this Chris Bayer created a game, and he calls it Tabletop Disc Golf, and it's a pegboard that he spray painted green and white and yellow little colors, and he has put a bunch of little dowels on some larger dowels to create obstacles such as trees. He drilled a hole in the pegboard as a quote unquote basket to try to get your peg in, and you flick these little these dowel discs through a course that you can create. And he goes through the 6-minute and 38-second video, and I'm just gonna clip through it here, and shows you more or less what to do, how to make it, and what he's done, some alternative options that he learned maybe after doing it, and he recreates some kind of really cool holes. I mean, like the one I'm showing right now is, for those of you that can't see it, it's Winthrop number 5, and he's got this blue right here where he considers the OB, and the basket's way back here towards the top of the video, and the trees that line along the side. Now he does show him playing it like you normally would. Then he also shows the shortcut, pulling the Simon Lizotte version and going over the entire lake to it. But it was one of the cool things I saw this week. I think I saw it. It was either earlier today or yesterday. This is Winthrop hole 7, and I just thought it was kind of a really interesting take on something that we really haven't seen too much of. I think we've seen disc golf board games in the past, but I've never seen anything quite like this. I know someone else mentioned it looks like another game that I was unaware of, but what were your thoughts, Tara?
I saw it as well. I thought it was pretty cool. Uh, I don't. I think I would get bored. I think it would be great for somebody else to set up and for me to come play for a little while. I think I personally would get a little bored with it. But overall, I think it was really cool. And the fact that it's incredibly economical, as he said, just really just a few dollars in parts and pieces, whether you're using a snip or some kind of saw and a little bit of spray paint. I think it's really cool. I think it could be a lot of fun. I think I saw Steve Dodge make a comment about it at some point, saying that it would that if it could be a game possibly during the Vibram Open, and some of the people that would dominate it at the Vibram Open. But
yeah,
it looks like a lot of fun, and I'm glad I sat and watched it.
Yeah, the board is 2x4, 2 feet by 4 feet. I'd love to see a larger size board. Maybe go 2x8 and make a longer board. But I think overall it's a really cool thing. It would be something you could put in a basement. You set it up in a basement, you create it, you let it sit there. Maybe you have friends over, it becomes a drinking game or something along those lines, and it would be really fun to have. And like you said, it was pretty cheap. I mean, I think the most expensive part was probably the pegboard. So
yeah, no, definitely something, and I would love to see more people go out and take their hand at it and give it a whirl, come up with their own. I'd like to see more videos and people put their own unique spin on it. Now that I feel like him in that video have given us a really good baseline, I think it would be great to see how people get super creative with it after that.
Sure, I could see an uncle of mine is really into model trains. I could see, putting some of those little trees and stuff on the dowels and creating a really cool looking course or hole. The one problem I have with it is to switch up the holes. Like if you want to make a really cool hole by hole, that's great, but to change that all up would be a giant pain in the butt every time in between holes. So there were a couple of videos of him doing some other where you could basically pick and choose which path you wanted to take, and it was a different hole. So, and you would prop it up on its side a little bit to get more of a curve. So if you want to throw more of a hyzer or an anhyzer, so to speak. So
something else I saw in the news, I think it was just earlier today, and by news I say Instagram. I believe I saw Jamie Thomas of Spin TV. I believe he made a post saying that he was excited to make a pitch to the rest of the shareholders, stakeholders, whatever you want to call them, the rest of the guys over at Spin and the Spin 18, I think is maybe technically the parent company name, in terms of what he's thinking about doing and some projects and
for 2017.
Specific pieces he wants to put together for 2017. So we'll be interested to see that, because I think we all know Jamie is, of course, a very talented artist, but a very talented editor. And so I would love to see if he's going to have some more specific targeted things on his plate moving into 2017. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it looked like I'll be curious to see what Spin has in store, and what everybody has in store for that matter. Every year, I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully we'll get a little more insight. Because I did see UC said he was flying back over to the States here for a little while, and said over the past 10 years he spent about 2 months on total on a plane. So that's a lot of hours. So
yeah, it is. And when you're doing, there's so many more people here. I know he's dominating the scene over in Finland, but there's so many more people here, and the U.S. is certainly no Finland when it comes to disc golf recognition. So there's
no, not at
plenty
all.
of work to still be done over here. Now I totally lost my thought. I was going to say something about, I don't know. I'm sick. I'm going to try and read. Johnny, one of the questions that came in off the board, which I think is appropriate, especially given the time frame, is: are there any particular events we're looking forward to in 2017?
Looking forward to
like filming and
filming.
Such.
I mean, for me, GBO is always a lot of fun. It tends to be a really hectic week for us, and we kind of we tend to bust our butt for like 4 or 5 days, and then
I know you're not used to that, but some of us are.
Yeah, it's called my work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but then we get to hang out Saturday night or Sunday and do whatever our thing is, and that's always a lot of fun. It used to be, so that's really the only one I can say I'm honestly super looking forward to, because I don't plan on traveling too much. So for me, most of the events look the same. I hope to get out to GBO this year. I can't say for sure that I even will, but it's one of those ones that I always kind of put on my calendar. Like I used to put the Memorial out there when I played. So.
And then on my end, I'm looking forward to. There's certainly a hem and a haw when it comes to looking forward to some of the new venues, and I only say that because if I don't know the venue, I'm not going to know the courses or the history as much, but more so, I'm not going to know all the pockets and the signal challenges and issues. I know that someone like Steve Dodge from the Pro Tour is out running around doing some good signal testing and working with a number of the events and the venues.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these have become so ingrained because we've been there for 3 or 4 years, and we know where to go, where not to go, things to avoid, and things to look to. And when we go to a new venue, although it might be exciting to be there, there's a level of uncertainty. And so any of the new events that we're seeing on the Pro Tour that are added to the Pro Tour this year should certainly be exciting. We're talking with the PDGA, and we're talking with the Gentlemen's Club and Innova about the idea of being out there to kick off the national tour. And we've never been live in Vegas, and Vegas now has played at Sunset as well as at the golf course that they're at this year. And so we've never been live there, and we're anticipating good signal and a good experience, but there's obviously always the chance it may not be. So some of those things are really exciting, I think, to go out and experience this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just following Cool Daddy Slick Breeze on the board, he did say, and this is kind of big news, that the GBO registration opened up yesterday for the NT. So if you're hearing this and you want to get in and play, sign up fast, because those spots usually go. So Get out there. Don't
Yeah.
be one of those slackers. Don't.
Well, and this will work and kind of double up as a PSA and an answer to Kyle Underwood's question, which is, does your PDGA membership expire on the first of the year? And the answer is yes. So, really, why that's so important is a lot of these tournaments, you need to be current. You need to be a current member for you to even sign up. So, if you want to go sign up for next year's Glass Blown Open taking place in April or May, you probably have to be a current PDGA member to do it. So don't wait until the registration, for instance, for the Memorial opens in a week or two. Don't wait till that night and then be like, oh, well, I need to register for the PDGA as well. Get your PDGA membership renewed as soon as possible, and then that will be good through all of 2017. So when you go sign up for these major events or these really big events, your membership will be one less thing that will hold you up at checkout. So please go out and get renewed or get registered.
And as every disc golfer knows, almost, spread out your expenses. There's no reason to, a lot of people don't like the fact that, I got to drop $100 and some odd for the event, and I got to drop another 60 or 80 or whatever for the PDGA membership. Like, it's so much money, and just spread it out, man. October, you know.
Sign up for something, and
sign up.
Yeah, when you can, then it doesn't seem to be as much of a hit on the pocketbook.
Yep.
When you try and get
sign
up for an event every couple weeks or so.
One of those upcoming pro tips. Just spread out your expenses.
Yeah, they're gonna be there. Just spread them out. And someone had asked if Simon Lizotte's gonna be ready by January. We're fully anticipating he's gonna have a full recovery. That's kind of the word on the street. That's something we're expecting to see. And if anything else were to come about, I'd hope we'd learn of it and we'd certainly share it with you guys. But I'm fully expecting to see a recovery here by Simon Lizotte. So.
I think he'll recover. I don't know if it's going to be by January, if he'll be ready to go or not, but I expect a full recovery. It didn't,
And throwing back, and it is truly a throwback, a little bit to the recent years, we see that Chuck Kennedy, has in fact posted a copy of many of our previously released VHS and DVD compilings of some major events, including the World Championships. I know we saw out there the other day. So there's a number of those that are available on YouTube that you can go out and watch now. I was thinking that would be best served on the PDGA's channel, maybe, but I know Chuck is obviously one of the heavy hitters within the PDGA and working with the ratings and everything else. And nonetheless, it's all out on YouTube. Not all of it, but there's a bunch of it released on YouTube in terms of some previous content.
Has he added more since last week? You and I were looking at him last week. Did he put more out there?
I believe there's been a few more that have been added since then. And sure enough, I found myself mildly enthralled in the 2000 Pro-Am World Championships in Michigan, which you and I were at, along with a bunch of other friends. And sure enough, we also saw, if anyone watches that, the 2000 Pro-Am Worlds, there's the final 9, and especially during the men's Pro Open, there's a gentleman running around that's literally wearing or dressed up like a disc golf basket.
Yes.
And that's not me.
No.
For starters. It is a gentleman from Wisconsin now. And he was there, and his name escapes me. I want to say Andy, but he was there with Tony J, who's another Wisconsin native, both from Milwaukee. But he was out there, and he literally was, and they reference him at one point. They said, I hope no one accidentally throws at him. I think Stork Roddick mentions or references him. But yes, that is it's a solid video out there. There's a guy running around dressed up as a basket. So if you want to stand out at a major event, just dress up like a basket.
And you and I talked about this last week afterwards, when we were kind of watching one of the videos. Kevin McCoy's on the board, and I'm going to throw this out to Kevin, he's on our board and he's on the board. Those PDGA videos, they should all be on the PDGA YouTube page. If they're going to be out there, put them in a central spot to find them.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But get them out there. That's if Chuck's putting them out there, and they're free game to put out there, So dedicate someone's time. Pay Greg Barsby to dub them and put them on there. So
you had to go there. You
I
had
did.
to bring it all back.
He's looking. We tie it all together. He's looking for extra money. Send him some DVDs and some VHS. Have him dub them. So yeah, definitely. So get him on the PDGA page for us. So and yes,
there's some really good old school footage, and it's insane now for me as I got, like I said, hooked on it for a few minutes, to be looking at the 2000 Worlds, remembering it not quite like it was yesterday, but not my memories are pretty vivid, and to think that was a full 16 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember it pretty vividly, actually.
But, yeah, it's kind of scary to think about that. To think about spoiler alert, Ken Climo winning his 10th world title, and he has obviously the 12 overall, but some kids today don't know who Ken Climo is. As crazy as that is, there's plenty of golfers who won't know of the reign that Ken Climo had, and taking 10 world championships in 11 years. And Scott Stokely, of course, is in there and makes a few funny comments and has a pretty solid interview. That was right in the – this is really throwing it back. That was right in the Stokely prime era, 97 through 2000-ish. That was prime Scott Stokely, and we're seeing him out there, reemerge now. But that was prime Stokely time, the 96, 97 through 2000 or so.
Yep.
So anyway, some really good stuff out there.
Yeah, go and take a look at some of the old school videos. You'll get a good chuckle out of it. Some of the outfits they wear, and Stevie Rico with his upside down backwards visor, or his backwards visor, and fun stuff. So the cool one.
I did in fact reach out to Steve Rico tonight, and he again did not answer my call.
That's not news. The cool one has a question for us, asking if he should play non-PDGA events. If he's a member, do you recommend him playing non-PDGA events? And I personally said, if you're a new player, he said, should I even bother playing non-PDGA tourneys or save my fees for PDGA events? And I say personally, if you have to make a decision between the two, play the PDGA event more than likely. But if you don't, play them all. Get yourself in these early years, get as much experience as you can behind, on a tee pad, whether it's non-PDGA events, PDGA events, all of them. Get out there, get playing, get active in your local community, get to be one of the known faces, and all that experience helps.
Yeah, and to further that point, what you'll learn at non-PDGA events is what you do and don't like about both styles.
Yeah.
Some people, I was just thinking it as I was leaving the park on Sunday night, some people can't stand the idea or the thought of playing in a group of 4 people with 4 people in front of them and 4 people on every other hole on the course. Instead of their hour round, a tournament round may take 2 or 2.5 hours. They can't be just talking and babbling and whatever as loudly and carelessly as they want. They have to observe a little bit of silence for the rest of the group. They can't be drinking any beer. And those are, and I'm not just trying to describe belligerent idiots, but those are all things that are part of that could be part of a non-sanctioned round, where in a sanctioned round, those things shouldn't be happening per the rules.
Yep.
So, and some people find great comfort in that, saying, hey, I'm going to play seriously. And these are the things, this is the respect and the level of expectations that I have. And I'm going to get some of those things, if not all of those things, at a PDGA event. On the flip side of that, you could say, you know what, I absolutely love the crazy or the looser rules or the party atmosphere or whatever it is. And it maybe isn't even that. Maybe it's just a little bit looser mentality at a non-sanctioned event. Your trilogy challenges and your ace races and your vibrant birdie bashes, all of those things are non-sanctioned, and all of those also have unique formats that are a ton of fun to play and usually a little less time-consuming. So I don't know if it's necessarily an either or. As Johnny said, play them both. But when you're playing them both, recognize and think about what aspects you really like of one versus another, and then you may decide, okay, you know what, I'm a little more structured towards this mentality versus that one. And those are the different things that you could have. Carver on the board says boycott PDGA, which we couldn't disagree with more. But so maybe Carver is, has maybe had an experience at one of those events. You play by usually more strict rules, and things are a little bit typically more, dare I say, subdued or low key.
Yeah, and I only said
Typically,
if you have to pick one, if you have a limited budget or anything along those lines, and playing. And the reason why I'd say play a PDGA event is because it does give you establishment as a rating and all that other stuff. And again, that's if you have to make a decision. But like Terry said, there's a lot of different cool formats out there that aren't PDGA sanctioned events, particularly.
well, and some, and you just hit on one of the most exciting things that members value maybe more than any other component of being part of the PDGA, which is when you sign up for the PDGA, you get that number. That's your number for life, and you have to renew every year. However, your progress at PDGA events then travels with you, or regress, I guess. But it
depends which way you're going.
Exactly. It travels with you, and it becomes a running rating for you, and it gives you a snapshot of how you're doing over a certain time period. And a lot of people love to see that. It's crazy to look at a rating and see, oh yeah, I was once 995 and now I'm so not 995. But you can statistically see there's proof of how your skills are either increasing or decreasing when you're attending these tournaments. So another, that's probably I think that's the number one reason why most people join the PDGA is because they're interested in seeing that rating improve over time, hopefully improve over time.
Yep.
And
good
we work
info.
closely with the PDGA. I've been a PDGA member since like 1993 or 94. And of course, I've very much support what they're doing and the growth that they've had. We talked about it last week on the show. Having over 90,000 current PDGA 90,000 members now that have signed up is definitely pretty exciting. And I signed up and my number's 10,000. So
14,000.
definitely some serious growth.
So, yeah, as Kevin McCoy, who's on the board, says, some like the party, some like the competition. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and not to say you can't go to a PDGA, a non-sanctioned PDGA event, and it's serious. It certainly could be, but like I said, there's not rules, and there's not as many rules and standards that somebody is being held to, and expectations typically. If you go to, like when you go to a PDGA event, there are certain rules and guidelines that in theory everybody must be playing by. That's the tournament director, and that's all of the competitors. If you go to a non-sanctioned event, the rules can certainly be a little bit more up for interpretation. They could be bent. They could be manipulated a little bit more. It's just a different style. And there's tons of, I used to run a ton of non-sanctioned events. There's room for both. They're just different styles.
Disc Golf Nerd has a question basically saying, can you request a specific PDGA number? And I answered on the board, you used to be able to. You can't anymore. They have banned or restricted that particular access that you used to be able to get. And you and I were both fortunate enough where my son's PDGA number is 14324. I actually put a 5 at the end in the typing because I typed too fast. Mine is 14324. So, I got his exactly 30,000 after mine. And I wonder if you've made a big enough donation to the PDGA if they'd let you do that.
I think it would have to be incredibly sizable. And one of the reasons, for those that are wondering, is it used to be much more of a manual process, so they were able to manipulate a little bit. But now, with the way that was before, you could just simply sign up online for your PDGA membership and then instantly have a number. So now, because it's much more of an automated process, which ultimately helps everyone, your chances and your opportunities for selecting a specific number are pretty much thrown out the window. So you are not able to necessarily specifically get one. Someone asked what is the expenses? How does that affect a TD? Typically, a tournament director has to pay a sanctioning fee depending on the event. I want to say for C tiers it's $50, for B tiers it's 75, and for A tiers it's 100. So you directly pay a sanctioning fee to the PDGA to say I want to put this on the calendar and be a sanctioned event. You pay an upfront fee, and then you have a per player fee during the event. So this last weekend I ran a C tier tournament. I believe it was $2 for every single competitor that played, except for juniors. So if I had 110 competitors minus the 103 competitors, in theory, I know I owe the PDGA at least $206. And then anyone that wasn't a member had to pay an additional $10 so that they could compete on the weekend.
Wow.
So I'll be writing the check or sending over PayPal to the PDGA, the $206 plus the 10 or 12 people that weren't members. So that's something I'll be submitting to them after the event. I take all of those fees directly out when someone pays. So if you paid a $40 entry fee, I subtract the $2 that you paid in or have to pay in, and I take that out right away. So, and every TD does it a little bit differently.
I'm in shock here a little bit, and it's just me feeling old. People are suddenly posting their PDGA numbers. And
yes, I love it.
We're seeing 89645, 89645.
That's in the last few weeks.
89649, 85079. Like, these are numbers that people have gotten this year or within a month or two, and they're out here watching us, which is kind of funny. It's Tuna Happy says he wish he hadn't waited 20 years to get his number, and he got 10644. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I kind of, and I know I shouldn't, but I kind of picture our show like, we have more, I know we have the wide gamut, but I just never think that like someone who's got the number of like 89,000 is watching. I just think, oh, I'm new to the sport, I got a PDGA membership, but that's not really the case anymore. I've been playing for a while, and I want to envelop disc golf, and I'm joining. So the other question is, how, this is one that, I need to ask. If someone doesn't have Facebook, Terry, how do they go about getting some Smashbox discs?
Oh my gosh. That's such a great question.
That is a great question.
Their best bet would be to reach out to me directly. I would say probably my email, which is Terry at prodiscgolfer.com. That would be a great way to get at me. You could do other things like send me a direct message on Twitter, which I probably won't check that often. You could probably message us through our YouTube accounts, either the Disc Golf Guys or Smashbox. But giving me a call, 414-803-3307. I'll put my number out there. Or shooting me an email, Terry at prodiscgolfer.com. Just like it sounds. Shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to let you know what we've got available if somebody wants to pick up some sweet Smashbox stuff, which we're going to have even more of, obviously, in the 2017 season. So
yes, we will.
Looking forward to having a few new items on that front.
I heard we're gonna have some original CE discs with Smashbox.
Yep, those along with a few
first run buzzes.
Yep, some first run buzzes with our stamp on them. We're gonna wipe the bar stamp and put our stamp on them.
Smashbox logo on them.
And the guys at DGA, they've held some original midnight flyers for us. And,
that's gonna be nice. Yeah, a midnight flyer with a Smashbox logo.
That would be
great.
So
that would be great.
Yeah, and it's great. It is great. Like we are seeing a huge diversity for those that aren't live with us right now and paying attention via YouTube anyway. We see 29,717, 84,618, James 69,372.
James Nichols says he just signed up and his number is 90141. 90,141.
Okay. And there were a few people this weekend that have now signed up that wanted to become members, and this event that I hosted will in fact count towards their first ever towards their rating, and they'll also obviously be in the 90,000s, and I'll be registering them in the next couple days here. So awesome, James. 90141. Lance Brown's on the board at 58644, and our boy Rick Hussein 83,580.
Wow.
Rick, really that late, buddy? You
Yeah.
signed up?
Well, some people they're late bloomers. So.
Alex, real quickly, I addressed it earlier, but the feedback I got regarding the trophy only seemed to be really positive. Nobody came up and spit in my face this event, so it seemed to be really positive. Some people said they really, really enjoyed just getting this massive player pack. They had everything in the morning. One of the things that I think helps maybe, and people can take this or leave this as a suggestion. One of the things that I did this weekend, thanks to our friends at Boom, and Innova, actually, and Paragon, I had flight prizes. And for those that aren't familiar with those, basically every single, because you all you were playing for was a trophy all day, a sweet trophy, but all you were playing for was a trophy. But second round, to kind of keep you excited or interested or competitive, even if you were sitting in third from last, I gave out a pack of stuff both days during the second round. And then I told the group, play for that packet of stuff however you want. So if you wanted to do CTP on a single hole, you wanted to do, most dots, or the person that had the most bogeys or birdies, or low score overall on the day, or low score for that round, whatever your group could agree on, that's how you were to play off for this additional package of stuff, of sponsored items and materials. So I feel like even if, like I said, you're sitting in third from last place, you still had a little something to play for during that second round out there on Saturday or Sunday. And it seemed like people really enjoyed that as well. On Sunday, when I hosted a raffle, fully licensed and legal, of course, in the state of Wisconsin, when I hosted a raffle, I included one raffle ticket in each of the 18 packets. So again, however they played for it was their business, but that meant at least one person in every group had a chance then to win a basket or a pair of keens or whatever, and based on whatever game they came up with during the group, within their group. So I feel like that went over incredibly well. It gave somebody something to still be excited about and to play for during that afternoon round, even if you were way out of it. So those are typically referred to as flight prizes. I'm guessing there's other names that people have around the country, but I refer to them as flight prizes. So it seemed like things went really well.
Melvin said he signed him and his son up together. He got 68870 and 68872.
Ouch.
So someone snuck between, and I just posted who snuck between. I looked up their PDGA number. So,
all right, you guys want a pro tip? This is a tournament director Terry Miller pro tip exclusive. If you are attempting and you care, I should say, about having consecutive numbers with someone, which is really great when you've got kids or your husband plays or your wife plays or whatever, and it makes it much easier to have consecutive numbers, go do it in the middle of the night. Find a slow time or super, super early in the morning. Find a time, because it's all just
holiday.
based on how you come in on the PDGA. So find a time where you can dedicate it. Maybe even have two computers up, depending on how much you really care, but get it up and running so that you submit it, and then you go ahead and you submit another one immediately following that. Two browsers, having them both almost filled out, that's a good way to do it. But when people sign up through me for my tournaments, and I know it's a husband and wife combo or something like that, I know there's like two brothers that are signing up, two kids or whatever, I do my best to pick a time where that they will, when I sign them up, hopefully the numbers will be consecutive. So can you trade numbers, Max asked? I would say you only, and the only experience that I can speak of is Avery Jenkins, for the longest time, was trying to get a very specific number. It may have been 77,495, because his is 7495. And I believe he was trying to get that specific number, and he had been watching it, like watching weekly and daily, and kind of watching the new numbers as people were signing up. And he went out to sign up, and I know he was off by one or two numbers. He timed it to the point where he thought he had it, and he was actually just off. And I think the story goes he reached out to the gentleman and asked if he would mind trading the number, and they were like brand new, fresh members within a few days, and the PDGA allowed it in that case, and they did it. I may be
And
busting out some.
you only have to be a world champion to do that.
Yeah, so if you're a world champ and you're trying to get your kid a specific number, then. But that's the only story I've heard of that in the recent few years of that happening, and
Yep.
the guy was gracious in doing it, and Avery, Avery, I think even offered him a little bit of Avery swag.
Threw him some swag, yeah.
So that's about it. But if somebody got a number, 2 years ago, and you want to switch with them today, not going to happen.
No, once there's some sort of record, or the PDGA, probably the PDGA has mailed out the goods. My guess is that it's locked. If you could possibly work with someone immediately, the PDGA might have some leniency. But once the stuff is printed and sent out and all that other good stuff, you're SOL.
Ed Schroer, fellow Smashy from Wisconsin, says, what about mailing in the same envelope straight to the PDGA? That might work as well. One would think, but not really, because I only say this because I feel like if somebody's entering it from the PDGA, and then here comes me at 4 PM, and they entered one at 3:59, and they're going to enter the next one as when they can, and I came in at 4 o'clock and entered somebody for my event, I may squeak in there. So I don't know if you're necessarily guaranteed going that route either. I think 2 browsers up, having them mainly completed on each browser, hitting submit, and then immediately going to the other browser. I think that's your trick.
Kevin McCoy says, just do the George Smith and sign up twice.
Oh,
I
didn't know that. I don't think I know that story.
I don't know that story either. We'll have to have Kev on sometime to explain exactly.
I believe George Smith is he in the 6 or 10,000?
He probably signed up. Oh, he had 2 numbers.
He's probably in the 6,000.
Do you think he signed up just a long time ago and forgot, and then re-signed up, or maybe he accidentally, when he meant to renew, went online and registered a new one, or?
Oh, I was incorrect. Yeah. 4034. George Smith is 4034, 110,000 career earnings, 69 wins with the asterisk, meaning there's more probably, and he is currently rated 999. So,
two other good questions. One, who will get? Not who. Someone's asking who will get 100,000 on the dot. I don't know if the PDGA will hold that or not for somebody, or if it's just dumb luck.
There was a rumor about some particular person having claimed it many, many, many years ago. I don't know if there's truth to that or not.
Okay. And my question
was a rumor at one point.
My question is, when will we get to 100,000?
Oh, by the end. We may see it before 2017.
I was gonna say, or will we get it by the end of 2017, or will it go into 2018? I don't know.
It'll be. I'm sorry. Before the end of 2016.
Before the end of this year? No, we got like a month left. There's no way they're signing up 10,000 people in a month.
It's gonna be early next year then. Let's keep track of who's right and who's wrong here. Usually between you and me.
Probably me. Kevin McCoy says, yeah, I'm going with Kevin, and Kevin is saying that we will probably see it close to May, which makes sense because I think they're going through about. From what I've gathered, when someone said he signed up, real soon, and he was at like 90,100, someone said they signed up a week ago, and they're at, if they're going through about 100 a week or something. Yeah, I could something like that. Anyway, yeah, I would guess about mid to early next year, April, May, June. We're not seeing it by the end of this year. You're out of your gourd if you think that's the case.
Okay.
You're a Looney Tune.
We probably won't.
No, we won't.
Suggestions saying that they should auction off the numbers to raise money for tournament pools. Argument then becomes which tournament does it go to, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I think you're just looking at a really slippery slope. And there it is. Travis says that John Connor is PDJ number 100,000, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I thought there was some conversation about somebody who did purchase it or had it already. John Connor, and I think that was purchased quite a while ago.
Kevin McCoy says we're going to make a big deal for Mr. 100,000. So maybe Kevin can clear it up whether or not there actually is someone at 100,000. If it really is John Connor.
I could have swore it that as soon as somebody said it, because I remember there being a conversation that was already had around it as to,
yeah, I mean that's
just that somebody purchasing it years ago or something.
Yeah, we need our PDGA representative. Or oops.
Oh, Kevin.
Kev. There was one other question up there that I wanted to ask. There was when we were. Oh yeah, Terry, this would be a great question for you. Is there a site that has kind of a general price list, a Beckett Baseball Card Monthly type style for collectible discs?
No, which is hilarious.
Hilarious.
Is it coincidental or ironic that just today I was thinking that exact same thought? Because
with the including the Beckett, the whole
yeah. Exactly. And I don't think it would be. It certainly couldn't be upkept monthly as Beckett I know was. But here's my thought. Just today, right behind this sheet here in my office, our backdrop, I had removed over 1,000 discs out of my office. And discs only get into my office, my actual office, is if they're I'll say above stock, meaning there's something cool or unique about them. It could be a custom stamp that was a certain color or whatever. And I took 1,000 discs out of here to start making a little bit of room. And all I was thinking is, we do not have an ultimate guide to disc golf pricing. And it's so subjective.
It is, because
there could never be an official or a final.
Because you have different stamps, the same run of a first run destroyer, so to speak. If it has a different stamp, it could sway the value by 10, 15, $20.
And here's a great example. I literally look over. When these champion double stamped Thunderbirds came out, obviously, like a lot of items, they came out and they were at a super high value, 30, 40, $50 people paid for them, that very quickly died down. I put this at like a $20 to $25 disc right now. Somebody's going to say 25 to 35. I don't think anybody would say less than 20. But even there, it's completely subjective. But then I hold up. Now, here's not anybody drooling. Here, also sitting just on my stash, is an 11-time KC Pro Rock. At one point, these obviously sold for like $12 or $13 way back in the day. And one could argue with me right now, this one's $175. So one could argue with me that this is worth anywhere between $60 and $100. And yeah, and that's a huge range. Yep. I guess that's 11 times, so maybe actually even a little less. It's just funny to think about, and I'm just looking at some other random discs.
And like the problem is, I think what people have is there's not a good central place to find this information. And you kind of just have to maybe go out and do, if you have a question about your particular collection or your discs that you may have, all you can really do right now is really just go out to Facebook and maybe try to find an auction or something along those lines of someone.
Yeah, and even that is incredibly can be really tough, because there were days, for instance, that you can put out. I'll just make one up that I did. I put out for auction a really cool jet black star destroyer with Paul Macbeth's logo on it, and one day it would sell for 38, and then I put one up a week later and it would sell for 22. Okay, so what's really the value on that? Could there be an actual consensus as to what that value really is? And then you're talking stock versus
what, and
custom versus all these other.
I'm going to throw it out there. What would be really awesome, and this is my tech head coming into it, even though unfortunately I think people have tried and it won't work. People would be best to like create a website just for selling discs, just for auctioning or any sort of thing. Basically what a lot of the Facebook groups do now, create a disc, and then at that point someone has a central general idea of what every type of disc sells for. The seller marks, it was, it's star plastic, it's got, custom versus stock stamp, blah, 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 blah. And then it gives a general range. So people would know, right now your Star Destroyers are going from anywhere from 22 to 28, depending on what that is. But again, that would require people to abandon Facebook, the easiest way to find these things, and go to a whole new website, which, as we know, really probably but would not happen. We've seen things like Discaroo and all these other websites come and go, and just nothing seems to stick. And there was a really good article, I don't even know if it's really good, by Ultiworld, like 2 weeks ago, about the decline of disc golf. Are we in a decline? And they used a lot of Facebook statistics for that. Like, hey, look how many Facebook disc golf groups there were, X number of years ago, and how it's been declining the past 3 years or something. And I kind of think there was a big splash, and now people are consolidating. It's not that there's less people out there, or there's less groups, but more people are joining groups. There's a lot of people that tried to create a group that then failed, and now they've kind of swarmed into another group. So it would be tough
because as we've seen now, Facebook and the groups that can be found on Facebook, it's completely reinvented the whole process. It used to be, if you wanted a disc, it more often than not, if you wanted it bad enough, you just had to go find it on eBay. It was really the best way to find a disc. I sold 1,500 or had over 2,000 transactions or something like that on eBay, and love to sell discs either at buy it now prices or at auction prices. And that was certainly a judge. But then when Facebook took off, and then in the last few years, we've seen now all these groups for Facebook, it's just so hit or miss, and it's all over the board. So it's nearly impossible to get like what many would consider a really good consensus on those discs. But as I was shifting these discs from my office, which every one of those discs, literally every single one, not one of those would you probably be able to go even find in a store. Every disc that I moved out of my office only to my living room for the day, did I think, wow, man, I'd love to know. I mean, because this today, I'll use a Midnight Boss for those that are familiar with it, which I couldn't sell fast enough or couldn't get rid of for $30 back in the day, now have a $100 price tag on them. And so, but then it goes up and down. The fact right now, and I'll throw in Discraft, the fact that the 10-year anniversary buzzes with the bar stamp go for more money than some of the original bar stamps kind of blows my mind. I don't understand that. So there's this crazy mixture that just, they go up and down and all over the place. And every time I think about selling something, I say, well, no, I'll just hold on to it.
That's because you're a hoarder. We all know
that's
it.
the problem. Mm-hmm. And this can kind of segue right into something I posted yesterday on Facebook, which was the idea of doing a mystery box. And we all know how popular mystery boxes are, not just in disc golf, but they are in a number of different realms. And I had thought about doing just that, taking some of these discs and then putting them out there, putting them all in various boxes. However, some of the immediate feedback or criticism that I subject myself to is just that. The guy that gets a box that I feel is valued in total is, say, worth $125, and he gets it and he thinks, no, if I, when I look at the numbers, I come up with this thing being worth, $85. Then immediately you're putting your reputation, fairly or not, you're putting your reputation out there.
Yeah.
Where I know I'm out to put out a good value, but somebody else's perceived value wouldn't match up. And I think that's the biggest problem with doing those. The other big problem with having mystery boxes out there these days, sorry for all those people that don't follow buying and selling online, but the other big thing with mystery boxes is the fact that people feel like, well, if you don't get a really good box that you can then turn and then also flip for a profit, then somehow you didn't get your values worth either.
Sure.
And I feel like that mentality has kind of been ingrained or has grown. And I don't know who's watering that plant, but it continues to grow. And it's really obnoxious because if I tell you, here's a mystery box, here it is $90, and I feel like there's 125 in there. And when you open it and say, well, yeah, there was 125 in there, but nothing I could really sell for big money. It's like, well, then I think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But
No,
anyway, believe it or not, as long of a diatribe as that all was, that's something we're seeing pretty active on some of the Facebook groups right now and conversations that are being had out there. And it's part of that season where people are buying discs for other people. People think, oh, hey, my boyfriend or girlfriend or so and so always has loved the third run CE such and such is, and I'm going to drop the $100 on that, and that kind of gets all these conversations, I think, flowing. So
yeah, no, I mean it's good, and that's one of the reasons why obviously Facebook is so nice is that if you're really into a specific disc, there's probably a group for you. If you really love the groove, my guess is that there's a groove a groove club out there for you that maybe you guys can trade the 4 that are left. So, or the Z putter or whatever it is.
yeah, there's a lot of different things out there, and I know I always talk about it. And again, it'll be on a different podcast some days. I'll rifle through a bin of discs and start up some auctions on them, and then have them the auction finalized on the following day. I think that could be a really fun way. Talk about the disc, where it came from, to me, if there's a story to it. Talk about that specific disc, say, all right, now this is going to be on the auction, and then the auction ends the following day at such and such time, but giving everyone a little bit of a visual introduction to it, and or my thoughts to it, maybe even, because I've seen a lot of discs come and go as being a rep for all of the major manufacturers for the last 15 or 20 years. It's really been interesting to see. I'll admit, and for those legacy fans out there, I was really frustrated with the fact that some people just didn't seem to really care much about some of those first run rampages when they were out. I was like, gosh, just let's get rid of these things. I'm not going to hold on to them for any special value. Let's just see if we can get, move as many out the door as I possibly can. And now they're all worth 3 and 4 and 5 times that amount.
So,
and yeah, you kick yourself.
Of course, and it's hindsight.
If you're a hoarder.
If you're a hoarder, exactly. So here's a question for you. And this is out of my own head. What is the most valuable disc you've ever owned, and what is the most valuable disc you think you own right now?
I think for me, it's the same. It happens to be the same disc.
Okay.
And back around 2007-ish, the USDGC released. They release rocks every year, as many people know, as fundraisers. And you could only buy a maximum for many years. You could buy a maximum of 50 at $25 a piece or more. And I had purchased my share or whatever came to be about 7 or 8 of it was a mini rock stamp. And at one time there were 14 of them that were white rocks with a white embossing, or basically a ghost embossing of the stamp. So there was no foil. It was just stamped. And Mike Cousins and the Frizzwiz, Kurt Lampkin, had each sold theirs on eBay. They each had one at one point, and they had both sold theirs for in the neighborhood of like $800 to $900. And I have had one as well. And people talked to me about various offers and whatnot. And when it was all said and done, I held on to it. The question would be, is it still, if I pulled it out and put it to the right Facebook groups, would it still have the highest value of any disc I have? I would think so. But would it still be as much as it was probably those days? Not so much.
Yeah. The question is that, at some point, people were offering you, almost $700, $800 for it. What could you get for it today? $300? More than $400 maybe?
I think you'd have to pay at least $400 to $500 to get it from someone.
Sure.
So in my opinion, I would assume that would be my most expensive disc at the moment. Okay. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I do have some other CE rocks, some other first run destroyers. I've got plenty of bar stamped buzzes from Discraft. So
some old CE plastic lying around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few pieces. Not many, but a few.
I think somebody just said they need a Champ Gator. I think this is a box that I bought as many as you could one day and then never did anything with them. Somebody on the board said they need a Champ Glow Gator.
Kevin McCoy says he sold a candy apple green USDGC Champ Rock for $900. It was one of 3.
Okay.
So,
and did it
do we
and
have
did that go?
do we have a general idea of what the most valuable disc? I guess the most.
I don't even want to get into that conversation.
Really?
Yeah, that Pluto platters and tins and the original one of the original CET birds.
So the original
has gone for
I was going
more
to
than
say
$2,000.
I was going to say I was going to limit it to more to modern discs, not the Pluto platter, not the even the Midnight Flyers. I was thinking more along the lines of like I would say in the last 20 years, that type of plastic. So, okay.
Yeah, probably some various USDGC rock. I would say out there from what I see on Facebook, and the picture gets passed around every few weeks or few months, is a one of the very, very early CE champion T-birds.
Sure.
That seems to be
The red ones.
yeah, no. Like it wasn't even I don't even think it was red, and it didn't even say CE on it. It wasn't like
okay.
champion in that sense, but yeah, that would probably by many of your hardcore collectors would be considered the Holy Grail. That's how they typically refer to it.
Okay.
Is the Holy Grail. So
that's just I was just curious. I know we don't talk again with tonight being slightly light in news. We don't talk a lot about disc values in general, and it's kind of an interesting subject. And there's a whole subculture. There's a whole subculture out there if you're really interested in that type of stuff on what's worth what and what value. The problem is, there's so much out there that you just don't know about. And
well,
no one.
Yeah, I mean,
how many people even know about your white on white CE rocks anymore that are 10 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so hard. It's so hard to make those judgments.
It is, and then with people that come into the game and they have different reasons for why they want to collect a certain disc, whether they throw it or they don't, or they just like them. And then it's like anything else when you get into collecting, you may jump in head first, and then all of a sudden you realize like, oh my God, there's a million other variations out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be the case with this as well. As soon as you think you have all these different variations, all of a sudden someone says, oh wait, no, I've got this, this one with this stamp that was only produced on this day. And I'll admit, I'm a big fan of that too. This last weekend, and I don't have one in front of me, this last weekend, one of our many sponsors was Innova, and I provided every single player with their choice of a number of different Innova discs, but then the other disc that they, so to speak, had to take was a production run or production stamped G-Star Shrike. Whoopie-doo. Everybody's got those. Those have been out for like 2 weeks. However, I believe I am the first in the country that had a custom stamp on them. When you turn it around, it had a bottom stamp of the tournament from this weekend. And there's been a number of times where my timing has been just right when I'm talking to somebody at usually Innova East Coast where I order mine. And same thing with the Yeti AVRs. I was literally the first person in the country to have a custom stamp put onto a Yeti AVR, and they were given away at one of my tournaments that I had that weekend. And those are some of the stories that when I talk about and I think about, those are some of the things. Or I definitely recall when the Boss came out, and everybody loves the Champion Boss with Dave Feldberg's name on it from 2008. I had the very first custom stamped Champion Bosses in November for a tournament, and because of Thanksgiving, they didn't show up till Monday, so nobody got one. I literally had a box of 100 custom stamped tournament Bosses that nobody got because they showed up on Monday, and I held the event over the weekend. So there's a lot of stories, and there's some really cool things that are out there, but you just never know when you've got them all nailed down. Mm-hmm. Especially when we have so many friends of friends and then golfers that have worked at some of the manufacturing plants where it's like, I've got every 10-year buzz color ever made. And then all of a sudden one guy's like, no, I got this one.
Yeah,
Where'd you get that? Well, I got a friend who works there.
exactly. I got the special edition. Someone just mentioned it. It happened to be sitting right next to me. Special edition T-Bird or red. It's like super sticky or chalky almost. Like
Yeah,
it's got Ken
yeah,
Climo's signature on it, which obviously I just grabbed it at the time. It was just whatever disc was there to have Kenny's signature on it. But it's kind of funny that someone had mentioned it. And it's like I mean, it's probably the most tacky disc I've ever felt in my life.
yeah. A lot of those special edition and people will talk about the rocks that the super rocks, which also had some of that same tacky feel to them, and some of the special edition leopards and the T-birds. Some of them had that real chalky. It almost was chalky, but then turned into like a sticky tack.
And that's what this one. That's
Yeah,
what this
like,
one was. It was like a chalky originally, and now it almost feels like it's syrupy, covered in syrup because it's so sticky. Like
yep.
it's not clearly, but
I would melt it and pour it on your
pancakes
pancakes.
tomorrow.
Isn't that a
Pancakes.
brilliant idea? So yeah, that could be a really good, interesting sub podcast. And we talked about it years ago. Actually, is possibly rounding up a couple of our most notorious
Collectors.
collectors and what tips and tricks and things of that nature. And I think you're going to see some of that moving forward because there's definitely a market for it. And then on the flip side, there's plenty of viewers out there and listeners out there that are like, I don't give a crap about anything you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I pick up a disc off the shelf and I throw it. If I don't like it, I give it away or whatever. And I have the 9 discs in my bag, and those are all the discs that I care about, and I don't have a single extra,
Yeah.
and that's fine too. But the collector market within disc golf is enormous. There's no doubt about it. Says the guy that's got a few thousand extra discs. So
Yeah. No, that would be something I think you would excel at, that type of podcast, bring in some of those specific collectors. So
yeah, it could be a lot of fun. So
all right.
all right.
I mean, we've gone off about plastic enough. I don't really have a heck of a lot this week.
Nobody expects much from you, Johnny, which is good. The
That's
bar is usually
oh
set
god, I
pretty low.
set the bar low,
Yeah,
limbo,
nobody really
limbo. Like
expects.
I couldn't even roll you under it. It was so low.
Yeah, nobody does. So that's good for you. No, I think we can let people go. Maybe we'll have a real brief after show where we could catch up with some more of the action on the board. I didn't pay a ton of attention, but as I'm getting private messages, did you say first run rampages? Did you? So
Uh, yeah,
but
if
yeah.
oh, here's a public service. If you're looking for any disc, just message Terry. Any
I
disc.
don't know about that.
At any disc, personally message him. Show up at his door. Just ask him for it. Whatever it is, whatever you're looking for.
One thing that I have sitting here in my office, which I think is awesome, and it's not even a disc, is this beautiful piece of artwork that was done for me a few years ago. It was a photo that someone then converted into a painting, and it's a 12 by 12. It's one of my favorite pieces, and I'm just looking for the right place to get it hung in my office when I get everything organized here. But I think artwork, I think there's a huge market for this. It's tough because you're an artist and you pour your heart and soul into stuff, and then you probably don't get what you really should get for it. But pieces like that are things that really get me excited now. Obviously, I've got a number of Cam Todd paintings. Art and some of the stuff that he does is amazing as well. So all of it is amazing. So no, Pablo, this is not the after show, although it seems like it could be because it's a bunch of rambling. All right, Johnny, let's wrap it up. We'll have a little bit of an after show and chit chat, and then I'm gonna go back to being sick.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So for all of you that tuned in, sorry we didn't have a specific special guest. We'll make sure we have some next week. We will be announcing and drawing on air along with the crew from Spinners on the Green. That's Keith Murray and Dan Ginley and Ashley. We're going to be drawing the 4 golden ticket winners, so make sure you're here for that next week. You may be earning yourself a spot into the Memorial Championships presented by Discraft in 2017. And thanks again to all my sponsors and supporters for the cold turkey this last weekend. You guys have been amazing. This has been podcast number 121. Stick around. We'll have a quick after show. You can step inside the Smashbox.
Welcome back to our after show. I have to open it up because Terry has no clue when we're coming back because he can't see what's going on. He's no, stop that. For those of you not watching, it's probably better that way. Terry's pretending to be a mime.
Excuse me.
So you don't have to say excuse me because I mute that.
Oh, they don't even know. I just can't help myself. I'm such a polite guy.
I'm not good. I'm not good though, Ter. I'm not good.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, as Johnny B said, welcome back, everyone. This is podcast 121's after show. We'll get a little more action off of the board found here on YouTube. And for those that somehow don't know already, just go to youtube.com/smashboxtv/live. And that's the best way to interact with us on any given Tuesday night. We always have our feed running on the Facebook page. However, we don't pay too much attention to it because it's just really too much work with not enough eyeballs to make sure we keep on track. So
yeah.
Something like that. For those that also are just tuning in, you probably did listen to the regular show, which contained a lot of randomness, including kind of a long rant or tangent about disc golf discs. Very interesting world to dive into, whether you're a collector or just a thrower. But definitely, if you want to know more about that, reach out, and I think we'll construct a podcast of some sort that can kind of revolve around disc golf, collecting, even purchasing, dare I say. There's plenty of options. There didn't used to be. Where did you buy your first disc at, Johnny? That's a good question.
Oh, God. I think it was Played Again. I think it was a Played Again Sport in Appleton. I'm fairly certain that was it. I'm pretty sure I got the thing. I think it was the Typhoon. I believe that, or the Eclipse. Honestly, I can't remember because I might have gotten them at the same time. But those first few weeks, I remember I got a Typhoon, an Eclipse, and an AVR. Those were like my first. Those were like my first 3 discs. I think it was the Eclipse. Actually, was my very first one with the. Still, I might even still have the sticker on the back, but yeah. So Kevin McCoy. Kevin McCoy's teasing us, saying that there's big PDGA news that he can't believe hasn't leaked because the PDGA has been like a sieve lately with all their news, with all their stuff. So I'm curious as to what he's talking about.
I'd love to know exactly what he's referencing as well.
And Kevin, you can talk about it tonight because this is the after show. It won't come out till Friday, so no one will know until Friday.
Yeah,
so that's how the internet works.
He says Smashbox is going to need to do a call-in show Thursday night to get reactions. Well, like I said, I may be doing something Thursday night, so maybe we'll have a conversation there, Kevin. But
wow.
I'd be curious to know what's such big news. I don't think Kevin would be promoting the fact that they're going to remove him from the board. So that'd be weird. No, maybe not. Interesting. Very interesting. So, some of the other stuff seen out on the PDGA website that I saw also taking place was in fact that John Houck has designed his 100th course, and it had recently opened. I don't know if we talked about that briefly last week, but John Houck has, and I believe that was somewhat qualified by saying it's his 100th solo course. I know he's collaborated on a number of courses, and of course he's had input on final lines and things of that nature. But I believe this was his 100th solo course, and I want to say it's taking place somewhere. I looked it up the other day, 35 or 45 minutes, maybe northwest of Mobile, Alabama. So very cool, and I think there is in fact a tournament that's going to be scheduled for sometime in January. And speaking of scheduling, this is something I could have talked about on the show, but this is specific to me, but applicable, I'm sure, countrywide, which is the state coordinators should all, in fact, either have already given out a schedule or are working on a schedule for your state in terms of PDGA sanctioned events. So the timeline essentially goes, the majors are announced a while ago, up until around November or so. The PDGA talks to various entities about having and scheduling their A tiers, and then once all the A tiers are set in place, then the state coordinators work with the rest of the tournaments in the state to establish all of the B and C tiers. And if you have a state with 5 or 10 sanctioned events, well, then their job's pretty easy. In Wisconsin, I think we're going to probably have somewhere around 40 to 50 overall sanctioned events when it's all said and done. So the job becomes much more difficult. And so a state coordinator like myself or any other volunteer state coordinator around the country is to then try to do their best to get entities to work well to work with one another in hopes of reducing the amount of scheduling conflicts. So you're seeing some tournaments already populated on the PDGA website for 2017. You're going to see them continue to unfold as state coordinators continue to work with. I've had a lot of people, not so much in Wisconsin, but just in general, people are saying, well, I'm trying to make plans for next year into various big events or medium-sized events, or when is such and such happening. And that's kind of the timeline of how things are going right now. Someone even said the other day, well, is the Memorial like not a PDGA tournament this year? And I said, well, no, it's an A tier, so it's not on the schedule quite as early as some of the other events have been. So that's something for everyone to think about at home, that we're going to start seeing more events put onto the schedule moving forward.
Huh.
Chris Valdez says PDGA announcing a players union would be amazing.
That would be amazing if the PDGA was announcing it, considering that would be like the NFL.
Probably be
that would kind of be a conflict of interest somehow.
It would be kind of sort of a competition almost to the PDGA in a sense, or at least it would be probably viewed that way. Is that what you're saying, or no?
Yeah. I mean, the NFL doesn't run the NFL Players the Players Association. The players run the Players Association. So that's what I'm saying. It would be a very weird thing to have that happen. Someone's saying smaller baskets. Oh, Kev's got everybody all guessing these things. Smaller baskets, maybe.
Kev.
I know. I don't think it's a rules thing, because the PDGA said that there'd be no real rules changes, but the rules changes that we saw previewed that leaked out like a sieve a couple weeks ago weren't going to really go into effect for sure in 2017 and no sooner than 2018.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything major in terms of rules coming out either. I don't think it's going to be that. We shall see. And I don't think it's going to be and maybe this goes hand in hand with the rules conversation. I don't think it's going to be that, all baskets at A tiers are going to be a smaller target or something like that either. I don't think we're going to see anything of that nature. A TV deal or some other kind of media agreement, that could certainly be something to speculate on. I mean, there's dozens of really big things that could be announced. So Kev's got everyone.
What are you doing on Thursday?
Tantalized.
So you're talking about doing another type of interview or a podcast or show, something like that on Thursday?
Yeah,
Possibly?
that's the thought. Like I said, for sure I'm going to see how I'm feeling. First and foremost, if I feel anything like I do today, I don't want to be coughing during half of my podcast. But just the general idea for the viewers out there is that it would be a little bit more in-depth and I don't want to say not fluffy, but it would be probably a little bit more specific and in-depth with a particular guest, whoever that guest might be, male, female. It may or may not be a player. It may or may not be a promoter, someone on our PDGA board like Kevin. But it's going to be more one-on-one, and the hopes of it is that it will be a little bit more serious and pointed. I may even write questions ahead of time, so you know that it's going to get real, so to speak, if I write a few questions.
Wow.
And depending on the questions, I may even share the questions. Apparently they do that with interviews. I may even share some of the questions with the given guest, depending on how serious or delicate the question is. And I'm just looking for a little bit more more in depth, I guess is the best way to really word it.
Well,
And it'll
maybe
be with just one participant, and that will be the meat of the show, so to speak, would be one interview. Yeah, clearly our format for quite some time has been a little bit of an introduction. Usually have some kind of guest on, maybe have another correspondent like a Dana or a Zoe or a Yuli, and then go from there. In this case, this would be pretty much get to a guest, have a conversation with a guest, and then call it. And it would be certainly a little bit more pointed time wise as well, constricted time wise.
well, depending on what Kevin announces, or what the PDGA announces, you'll have to let me know what you're doing, because maybe we will do, if it's that big of a news, maybe we will do something quick on Thursday night, maybe just a half hour or 40 minutes talking about whatever the news is. Because, and I'm not gonna lie, we honestly don't know what it is. So
Yeah, good point. I'm waiting for Kevin to private message me here with something brilliant.
I already messaged him. I all I asked was, I was like, you don't have to tell me what it is, but is it really that big, or is he pumping it up? And he said, no, it really is that big. So
Wow.
I'm looking forward to something. It sounds like if Kevin wants people to be refreshing the PDGA page, it sounds like it's something positive. It's not like, hey, guess what? Yeah, the PDGA, they took all your membership fees and went to Vegas. Sorry, guys, we bet on red. It didn't pan out for us. So I think it's going to be something good. I'm excited.
One would hope, like you said, otherwise it'd be odd that he's promoting this.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, it will be interesting. We'll have to check back and people. This may all be kind of backwards when people are listening to it, because this may have.
Oh yeah, this is coming out on Friday, so these people already know whether or not we released a show on
So
Thursday.
what we should be doing, like the talk shows, and be like, "Oh my God, do you believe the news that was just announced yesterday, Johnny?"
It was amazing. I couldn't
Yeah,
believe
the
what the
PDGA
PDGA
dropped a bomb on all of us.
That
News.
was outstanding, and I can't believe that they and it was just wow.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Okay. Never mind. Let's see. Ooh, I think it's fair. There's no reason not to speculate. I guess that's what
Kevin.
Sorry, that's what Kevin was probably hoping for. Someone asked, "Does Liz Lopez know?" They're putting it, of course, at the White House. I don't think that's happening.
Well, Liz Lopez isn't the intern anymore, so I don't know why she would know.
Official disc golf channel. I would highly doubt that.
My thoughts are, if it's probably something media related.
Why do you say that?
I think it involves some sort of promotion. Either they've signed some sort of agreement with somebody for some sort of media exposure, or yeah. I mean that to me, that's all I can really. That's like, that would be some big news, and I'm not saying ESPN by any means, because I don't think that's it, but just some sort of bigger media exposure.
What about a ladies' professional disc golf association?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think so either, and that was not my suggestion. But
Disc Golf Nerd says they finally made a new commercial. You guys don't understand. Like the you guys think you have it bad with the PDGA commercial, and them walking through the park, and what it means to them. You guys didn't live through the years of it's in the air. Like and I agree, the PDGA needs another commercial or two, but wow, it's in the air was never good. It was I'm not a big fan of quick cuts, and that's all that commercial was. And I love the PDGA. I never liked that commercial. I don't mind the new commercial personally.
I'm going to mildly disagree. I like the commercial, but as everyone's clamoring for, like we've kind of alluded to with our manufacturers, we just need about 8 to 10 PDGA commercials so that any one doesn't get a little bit repetitive to anyone. And I know we've called for that for a while, and we'll continue to call for that until every manufacturer and or advertiser with us has anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 different commercials.
Yeah.
Heck, even if it's the same message, but in 10 different styles. And I know that's a lot to ask of them. I know what it takes to have commercials made, but yeah, I think that's where it kind of drones on people a little bit as, oh, this commercial again. And it's like, it's not necessarily that you mind the product or the service or the people. It's just that
Mm-hmm.
when you only have one of them, it seems to
Correct.
get a little bit repetitive.
Agreed. And I would love to. And like I said, I never like the it's in the air one. I don't mind this one, but it does get repetitive, and I'd like to see the PDGA have at least 2 additional commercials, just for spontaneity on my side, so we don't have to watch the same one over and over and over, and we can still give the PDGA the props that they deserve.
Some are saying that they're calling out Kevin, saying that he's just a joke and he doesn't really have anything.
No,
I don't think he's done just that.
No, I don't think
someone
so.
else had suggested that maybe coverage of all majors on ESPN 8 the Ocho. Again, if there's something coverage related, I know you just said media, but if there's something coverage related and you and I don't know about it, that may in fact threaten us.
That could be.
Potentially. So I wouldn't be maybe as excited, or maybe I would be. I mean, if they came in and said, we've got, the greatest broadcast company ever, and we got them at an insanely good price, and here's the millions of views they're going to provide us through their channels, I have no problem with that. Of course, I want what's best for the sport.
Yep.
And I would be perfectly fine with that.
Agreed.
Disc Golf Nerd says he's continually amazed by the lack of YouTube presence for most manufacturers. They should be making promo videos for every disc release. I essentially agree with that.
Me too. We've said that before in the past.
Yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities I think a lot of our manufacturers could be taking advantage of, and one's got to argue, well, the time, the energy, the money, the resources, whatever. I think it needs to be done. Everybody's watching videos now, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or any other platform, they're watching videos. And any manufacturer that's not producing content or paying someone else to produce content for them, I think is definitely left behind.
Yep, they're missing the boat.
And we all know that's one place where we've got to say that Bobby Brown and Dynamic Discs excels. They have one guy that is their primary social media and video guy, and Bobby Brown. For him, it's his dream job, and for them, they've got an amazing asset and resource in him, and he does just that. He gets to focus on all of those things full time, and there's no reason our other major manufacturers should not be doing the exact same thing.
Kevin drops clue number 2, says, if you're just a casual player, it might be ho-hum news. You probably won't even know what's the news. But if you're a serious player, a veteran TD, promoter in the game, it will be big news. So I'm going to take, I'll say this, I don't think it's coverage of like that people expect, like, ESPN type coverage for events. I don't think it's that, because that would be good, not good, but that would be a big news for everybody. But a serious player, veteran TD, promoter, it will be big news. Do you think?
I'm guessing there's some kind of initiative or not incentive. If you're a serious player, I think, and knowing Kevin's background in history a little bit, Kevin was the #1 champion of the rated league rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as he said, if you're a casual player, that may not mean as much to you. If you're a promoter, a TD, or veteran, so I'm going to guess it has something to do along with ratings, maybe rating more events or breaking down ratings, or dare I say, maybe some kind of system that gives you instant ratings.
Yeah.
As in, like, your rating is updated at the end of that weekend, because that's something that people ask for, is a more frequent updates to the ratings.
I think it's going to be something along those lines. Now that he dropped clue number 2, I think it's going to be maybe, and I'll call it like beta ratings. Like, hey, this is what the official ratings still come out maybe every 2 months.
But I mean, that's what we have right now.
No, I mean,
they have unofficial ratings at the end of the tournament.
But I'm saying your rating will be Maybe something along those lines that it'll, that you'll be able to see where your rating is. So
Yeah. And I don't think it's anything to do with TDs getting paid.
this is great because
Most
we're going to sound really funny or stupid come Friday when this is released. Maybe I'll release it Thursday morning instead.
Max Garcia, I think, has a pretty solid hypothetical guess here with official handicapping system. And maybe there's some integration that has to do with ratings, which I know is so tough with our course difficulties and all this other stuff, but there might be something along those lines.
Yeah, it could be.
Benjamin Kyle says maybe announcing that TDs or veterans get free membership to the PDGA, similar to what I said, and is getting paid. I don't think so. Because I don't think that would include our veteran players.
No.
I don't feel like it should. Yeah, I know plenty of people that I've been a PDGA member for over 20 years, and in my 23rd and 29th and 39th year, I expect to pay my membership. This year, they graciously offset that for me being a state coordinator. But if I wasn't a state coordinator and in my 39th year, I wouldn't be like, well, it's my 40th. I'd love to have my 40th year free. I'm okay with that. Paying our dues goes towards is something I just have no problem paying. So I hope it's nothing along those lines. I don't think it will be. But again, it was an incredibly nice gesture this year that they in fact covered the dues for the state coordinators. That was a very nice gesture.
Yeah,
not what I would have expected.
I'm definitely now leaning more towards having something to do with ratings.
Gambling site, no, that you're not going to see that they're going to openly promote or talk about. Skinny jeans outlawed. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I'd be okay with that.
What would you wear then, Terry?
Yeah, all my jeans are skinny jeans because I'm so overweight.
That's not what I was saying, but that's if you want to. That's the way you want to go. That's fine.
Man buns prohibited. I don't think that's going to happen. None of you really can say anything about it. You guys think there should be a max amount of discs carried per round? That seems to be a.
That's like one of those fake rules that people always think like, oh, you can only carry 18 discs with you during the round, and if you lose one, you can't replace it from your car. And
here's my official stance
like
on
that.
it.
I don't. I'm going to give you mine because mine's going to be short. I don't care how many discs you carry, as long as you're not in anyone's way. I don't care if you have a cart the size of 6 Zuka carts full of discs that you're dragging behind, as long as you're not impeding the flow of the game.
And I don't feel like I really care either, because our discs can be so easily lost and or sacrificed on any given course. So I don't know that having a limit is critical. But if they did say it's 20 discs, and that's just the number I'm using, I think that seems pretty reasonable.
I agree. I agree. Like, I would have no problem if they put a limit on the number of discs. As long as I'd say as long as the minimum is like 20, I'd have no problem with that as well. I think anything above that is bonus. And most pros will tell you that they're not going to go through those anyway. But I don't see a point in it, honestly. I don't see. There is nothing that something like that would do to help the sport. I see that as so just petty is the wrong word, but so petty, like such a petty thing to be thinking about right now when we have other issues, not even issues, that other things that we can look at in advancing that's saying, hey, you can only carry 20 discs, and now you find out, oh crap, I had that 21st one in there because I was warming up in the morning, or I found a disc on the course and I put it in my bag. Now I got 21, and garbage like that. I don't see a point in it, frankly.
I guess I think the ultimate litmus test for me always is when I think about either questions or proposals of that nature, and especially proposals when people come up with new things. Mm-hmm. I always like to think, is that currently something that's holding us back right now? Mm-hmm. And if it's not, then I don't necessarily know if it needs to be addressed. whatever the question is. If this is changed, this way or that way, is that something that is currently holding us back as a sport right now, present day? And if it doesn't, I mean, I don't know if you want to call that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I mean, there's, like you said, there's certainly a priority of issues, and I'm not sure that that's one of them. I agree with that. Do they limit the amount of ball golfers carry? Yes, I believe that they do, but I don't
I
know
know they limit
fact.
the number of clubs.
Yeah, we all know that.
But I don't know if they actually do limit the number of balls.
Try Googling that. See what
I actually am right now.
You would.
No, it says here, right from the USGA website, it says, what is the maximum number of balls I can have in my bag or use during the stipulated round? And the answer is, the rules of golf do not place a limit on the number of balls that can be carried or used during the round. Now, but it does not say anything about whether or not you can replenish them, or if you carry a certain amount and you run out, you're done. I don't know that answer, but the actual number of golf balls is not limited. The number of golf clubs, I'm fairly certain, is.
Yes. Country Disc Golf says, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a player allowed to get more discs from the vehicle if they need to? And they absolutely can.
Yep.
And if those discs, you go to the vehicle, in fact, if you break into Ken Climo's car during the middle of the round and you want to go, okay, don't break into his car. But if you went to your stash of discs in the car and you wanted to pull out 18 more discs and put them into your bag, and they all had Ken Climo's name on them, guess what? That's still legal.
Yeah.
You can absolutely do that.
Disc Golf Nerd asks a great question, asking, can you throw the disc of a card mate during the round if they let you? Yeah. If for instance you're playing with your buddy in a PDGA tournament, you walk up to a hole and you just threw your last overstable disc into a pond, you're like, I really need an overstable disc. There's no rule that says that your card mate can't hand you one of his overstable discs to throw, as long as it's clearly marked in any sort of way. It doesn't have to be marked with your name or his name, as long as there's a distinguishing, uniquely marked piece of plastic. You are welcome to throw that.
Kevin McCoy says, are you saying Tin Cup is fake? I don't think anyone's denying the fact that it's, if you're referring to him hitting more balls, his caddy just said, you have no more balls, you can't finish. Yeah. And that's because he only carried so many with him, not because he was only allowed to carry so many, Kevin.
No, and Tin Cup's not fake. It's a true story.
Yeah, it's all true. I saw it in the movie theaters.
Everything I see on movie theaters or on TV is real. That's why I'm looking forward to Star Wars.
Especially Kevin Costner, and like Waterworld. Duh, how could you think that's fake?
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, Waterworld.
Yeah, it was Waterworld.
And the question. Wow, now we're really getting into it. Cross-referencing our golf counterparts. If a player runs out of balls during a round, may he borrow a ball from another player?
And Country Disc Golf says, yes, there is nothing in the rules of golf that prohibit a player from borrowing a golf ball from an opponent or fellow competitor. A player who runs out of balls may get a new supply from any source, provided he does not unduly delay the process. Okay, so we were even wrong there, thinking that when you ran out, you were just disqualified. As long as you are able to get more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you can get more.
Correct.
I don't think that. Yeah, I wasn't confused.
I was under the impression that you carried that, and made this wrong, that you came with X amount and that was your allotment, and once you were out, you were out. But no, it sounds like just like us, we can go get more if we need to, as long as we're not holding the joint up.
More balls for Johnny V.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. There's plenty of ball jokes going around. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do an entire rules Q&A of random rules questions out there. But what I think is best to always know: refresh yourself with the rule book. Read the PDGA rule book Q&A, which is an awesome
reference.
yeah, reference point where it kind of discusses specific things in mind. And then one of my favorite lines forever, and I wish I would have ingrained this in hundreds of people's heads earlier on in my life, which is if you're second guessing a rule and you're playing with someone, the best thing you could possibly say to them, in my opinion, is if you're out in the course, is oh, can you show me where that rule is in the rule book? Because there's so many made up rules. Well, I so and so told me. Great. Just always say, can you show me that rule in the rule book? And if they can show it to you, then of course you adhere. But more often than not, they can't because so many of these rules are become just hearsay, or a local rule is definitely common when people are like, oh no, you can't putt with your left hand, your opposite hand. Not if you started the hole with your right hand or whatever. There's plenty of random rules or non-rules out there that people that are actually usually a local thing. So your best defense, if you're really questioning it, is just say, oh, can you show me that rule in the rule book? I'm not sure. I didn't know that. Can you show me that? Because I'd love for some of them to be able to find you. Well, I don't know. I just know it's in there. Well, if you know it's in there, then you should be able to find it. So,
Yep.
um,
There was another question. Oh, Christopher was asking whether the open division should be limited to a specific number of discs. And as we said, no, I don't think so personally. So, is the 2-meter rule in tree still a valid rule? That is a TD optional rule. They have the right to enforce that or not enforce that. Simple as that. It's up to the TD. If the disc is hanging from a basket and another player hits your disc on accident, is it a good putt? These are all questions. I don't really want to get into like a whole rules thing here, but these are all questions that pretty much are answered under those things that Terry had talked about, all those references. And I think that's a good place to go. I don't really want to become a rules reference.
Well, and there's a chance that we could misspeak with one or two minor words that could completely throw you off. So it's and that's why the PDGA, to become a PDGA certified official, is open book. You're supposed to use the references, which I believe it's usually a 25 point or 25 question test, and they give you, it's usually I think A through D, multiple choice. They spell out a scenario and say if such and such this happens and so happens, what's the ruling, and they give you A, B, C, and D, sometimes E. You are to use your rule book. You are to open it up and dig through it and find where the most applicable rule is. And another pro tip is when you're doing that, write down the rule you're referencing. So when it says, can someone re-tee after missing a mando or whatever the question is, and where you think you found the answer, write it down on your copy of that test, because some things can be even interpreted in certain ways, and it's not always just black and white how you're looking at it, depending on the interpretation of it. So make sure you go out and you use it, and you refresh yourself with the rules. Dana has said it, and I've done this before myself. Before your first big tournament of the year, especially if you're flying to it, like the Memorial, like so many people do, read the rule book cover to cover. It will take you 15, 20 minutes. Read it cover to cover, and I swear when you put it down, you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Like there will be at least one rule in there that you either have been playing wrong or thinking wrong or sharing with people incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
There's always at least one. And even after all these years, I think I came across one time. I was like, really? I didn't know that. So go out and read the rule book.
Is there a rule that Christopher asked us, if there was a rule, if you could create one, is there one that you'd like to see? Is there anything that you've ever thought like, man, I wish disc golf, I wish this was a rule?
It's funny because I have thought of a few, and none are coming to mind right now. But I know over the years, I've certainly wished that there were certain rules, but none are coming to mind right now. And if there is ever a situation, you reach out to the PDGA Rules Committee. You can find it on the website, and you reach out to them, and then you probably try to, as professionally and eloquently as possible, state your case for either a situation or where you think it might fit or the reasoning. Basically, make a pitch for why you think a rule should be added or changed into the rule book, and there's an entire rules committee that will more than likely take that under review. So, or wording. I know that's always a big challenge. Is people want the wording, some of the wording in our rule book, to be clarified and to be a little bit more specific in certain areas.
And Christopher says that was a terrible answer, Terry.
Oh, okay.
Christopher's a regular Smashy. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But it's been a while since I've played a disc golf tournament. I'll have to give that one more thought about what of any rules I could see.
Well, and it's funny because I'm trying to recall one of them because I also feel like
I personally would like to see the disc resting on top of the basket rule change. I think
you'd like for it to count.
I'd like for it to count. I think
okay.
It just and it's just me. I mean, the basket is supporting the disc is my thought. Whether it's on top, no one's aiming to go on top. If you get lucky and it goes on top, it goes on top. The fact that it has to be in the basket to me is fine. I've got no problem with it, but I wouldn't mind it if on the top counted as well. So
and I would go as far as saying, in a very similar sense, a rule that they changed a few years ago, the disc wedging into the side of the basket. I was okay with that counting.
Same here. Again, I think anything, more or less being supported, anything off the ground by the basket. If your disc is touching the ground, it don't count. If somehow your disc is wedged in the lock, but it's not touching the ground, maybe not that bad. But basket and above, anything up there, more power to you.
Oh, and Larry Puckett with a very spot on analogy said a basketball stuck on the rim doesn't count.
Very true.
That's a solid response there. So yeah, I would go as far as saying, like you said, just resting on top. I wouldn't mind if that was ever changed so that it would count, and then the disc wedging in the side of the basket. And I was gonna say it could go as far as, depending on how you interpret some of those. I forget what the exact ruling is for when the disc is teetering on the rim. I'd have to go out and look, and maybe Kevin or somebody else out there knows off the top of their head. But what if it's just teetering on the rim? Is that considered as counting these days or not? And so let me take your suggestion one step further, though. Resting on top of the basket, is that just the basket, or does that include the number plate if there is one?
I don't think I understand your question. You mean if it's resting on the number?
Okay, so you're saying anywhere on top of the basket.
Yeah.
So if I have a 9-foot pole with a flag on it that says hole number 8 on the top, and in the 1 in a billion chance I've thrown a disc and it's 9 feet up and it lands and I get it to stop on the pole. It's hanging probably by its side on the pole like this, but 9 feet up. Still count?
Yeah, I guess so then. I mean,
okay.
I don't think I've ever seen I've seen flags up that high. I don't think I've ever seen.
That's what I mean, a flag, like a flagpole.
I don't know if it's, I don't think you could, I don't think that would ever happen, but sure. And again, I have no problem with the current rule. The fact that it has to be supported by the chains. It just seems so kind of goofy that our rule says, it has to be underneath the top maybe, but above the bottom, but it can't be wedged in, and it can't have come in from that side. It's got to have entered in this way, but resting on the top doesn't count. But if the basket does happen to rest on top and it falls through and lands in, that doesn't count either. And it seems like it's a little goofy for me. I would have, that's why I'm saying I would have no problem if it was just saying, hey, if your disc is resting on top of the basket, that's fine. Well, and again, I don't have a problem with the current rule, but I could see that being a rule that I could see changing.
Well, to follow that up, it's funny because I don't know if I've given thousands of demos or 1,000. I think I probably have. No, maybe not. In the hundreds of demonstrations I've given, that is, I swear to you, one of
Hmm.
the most commonly asked questions,
Yeah, and there's tons of people that just believe
which
it. That
which says something about it.
yeah, I mean yeah.
Um, one of the Kurt says, "Wonder if video is going to be allowed for rulings." I think we're a long way away from that, Kurt. And
There's not enough video out there for all the cards to make it
there's
fair.
not enough video for enough of the cards, and that argument I'm not as big a fan of. I just also know though there's not enough video on a given card, and what I mean by that is, look at the NFL replays, look at the MLB replays. They literally have 8 or 9 or 4 or 5 cameras on that ball at any given moment,
Hmm.
and they have all those different angles to choose from. We're lucky to have one camera, and it's just all about, I think, your relative angle.
Yep.
And I just think all too often it could be I don't want to say tainted, it's just inaccurate. Now here's an example where I don't have a problem with it though, and maybe I'm contradicting myself, but if someone says, well, no, he went out of bounds over there, and I think of the Canyon last year, where I was following the final round at the Canyon event down in Brooksville, Florida, and a shot went OB off. We'll say off to the left over a cliff, and I think Climo was on the card and a few other people, and someone was trying to give the person a spot, and he's like, I think it was Kenny specifically, was like, "Well, I had him at this tree," and the rest of the group was like, "Well, we had him in this area." Like, to me, if I effectively zoomed in, I think there, now, as long as we're not talking about a difference of 2 or 3 feet and we're talking about 10 or 15 or 20 feet, I think there I could have probably provided a better, in that case, I could have provided a better,
And there's no rule against that.
no, there is. Yeah, you cannot use
Uh,
video to assist in a ruling right now.
to assist in a is that is that a ruling? Is that technically a ruling, or is that a judgment on where a player went out of bounds? I don't. Is that technically a ruling? Like, I could see you can't use it to determine whether or not a disc went OB. Like, you can't use the disc, for a ruling, or whether they foot faulted. But to say where somebody is in bounds, is that really a ruling?
Well, let me,
You read
just
the
so you and I don't get further down this rabbit hole of being incorrect.
yeah.
Question 36 on the Q&A sections for the disc golf rules found on pdga.com/rules. Is video evidence allowed for rulings? And I'll just read this so everybody knows.
Okay.
A spectator managed to capture video evidence of some stance violation and courtesy violations, like one player swearing and another drinking during the round. Can any of these video clips or snapshots be reviewed by an official to subsequently issue warnings or penalties? And the answer is no. At this point, media evidence such as videos, photos, or audio clips cannot be used by officials or TDs for making rulings. Only direct visual accounts of possible rules infractions observed by players, spectators, or officials may be used by TDs to make rulings.
So what you're saying is that it's not definitive, because you're saying these are rules calls. Like someone had said, let's say a kid, you're at some course, we're filming, some kid picks up a disc and takes off with it, and nobody, it's a blind hole. No one knows where the disc landed, but our cameraman, he's standing right there. And could you go, oh, hold on, let me check my camera. Oh no, you were pretty much right over in this area, like within a few feet over there. Because that's not technically a ruling. That's more of a judgment call by your group. That's not a rules violation or ruling. So I think there's a little bit of gray area in this particular instance as far as where maybe somebody went out of bounds. Not, like, again, not whether they went out of bounds, but where they went out of bounds, if the group agrees to it. And again, these are far-flung case scenarios, but we all know something like that is coming at some point.
Well, and to follow this up, I think of the specific instance, and it's just a little over a year old, with the Derek Billings situation last year, where he was putting over and over again on that hole. He at one point said to me, because he knew I was filming, he said, well, because he had thrown, he rolled OB,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know if it was me or someone else said, well, you can putt from that same spot again rather than going down to OB. And then he was looking for a placement on his mini, and he said, can you tell me where I was or something like that? I'm like, no, I can't. Like, so at that point, I said no to exactly what you're saying, which is I don't feel like I can give you a spot.
Yeah, and I understand that. Like, I completely realize it, and then we're not normally in a position where we should be doing that. I'm just saying that if it came down to it, you know, would there be a problem with it?
So Kevin's on the board said loophole. It's a group decision. If the group wants to look at the video and it doesn't hold up play, doesn't hold
Yeah.
play up.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not a rules call, it's a judgment call. So it's a slight difference.
Yeah, but it's a judgment call about a rule.
There's a difference though. You're not that rule that isn't affecting someone's score in any true way directly. You know, the 20-foot difference could versus a closer putt versus a further away putt, but that particular call doesn't. So anyway,
Yeah,
it's
interesting.
It is. It's a real interesting for us at least. Maybe not for everybody out there, but for us, it's interesting. Or I was thinking of an instance where maybe our cameraman was following like a disc that maybe someone couldn't find, a lost disc. Could the cameraman go back and go, oh, I see it. I caught it. It actually kicked off that tree and went that way 15 feet. You're all looking over there. Could the cameraman say, no, I think you're over there according to my video,
Well,
just like you were saying?
I've been kind of in that situation, and it's slightly awkward, because I want to be helpful, of course, but I'm not really part of that group. So yeah, it can be a little bit dicey and a little bit awkward, because I can't say every one of our top players. A number of our top players have turned to me at some point and said, hey, did you get that? You know, and they want either me to look or them to look or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation as to if I can or cannot be assisting in any capacity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel like at that point too, what if I saw it? Can I assist without?
Yeah, and without looking at your thing, if you're the only one that saw where the disc kicked, and your media, should you be interfering or talking about it? Because at that point, your media / spectator / whatever. If you know where a disc is, are you a jerk if you don't say anything and someone takes a penalty stroke because of it? When you were like,
Sure.
I knew all along the disc was 30 feet from where you were looking. Yeah. But where does our line stop as media versus everything? And I'm always about hopefully the benefit of the player. If it helps them out, I'm good with that. So, but then again, a lot of times we can't. So,
well, and we'll take it one step further before we end this portion of the conversation about it. Is what if I'm about to see, because I'm usually on site. Let's say 3 people are out to the side doing their own thing, and one person who I'm filming, and they're about to do something, we'll say illegal or incorrect. Should I be saying anything?
good question.
I see and here would be a great example. And Kevin, I hope you write this one down. And well, it's not that you wouldn't think of it on your own, but a great example would be 3 men are off to the side. They're not paying attention to the 4th guy who's got to throw. This 4th guy has marked their lie, and they're about to throw their, we'll say, second shot. And I'm watching them run up, and they're clearly going to go throw from where they set their disc down, not where they put their mini down, for example.
Oh, sure.
Some people take their disc and set it off to the side, which I hate when people do that, because I don't ever want to see them make this mistake. But they're clearly, I mean, crystal clear, they're going to line up and they're going to throw from their driver, from their disc, versus throw from the mini they set down. At any point, do I care? Should I care? Should I be observing? It's just, yeah, something to think about. Something for the rules to think about. Of course, I would want to make sure I'm 200% correct before I stop them, because what if,
Yeah.
I was for a moment confused, and
Yep.
obviously I'm not there to throw anyone off their game, but I also don't want to see someone cheat in front of me. But if they're not,
If they're doing it unintentionally, you don't want to see someone
that
break the
too.
rules.
Yeah. So that's an interesting situation that certainly could arise, and I feel like something along those lines has happened to me at least once, where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do or say here, if anything.
Yeah.
So, all
All
right. Well, it should
all
be
yeah.
interesting to see. I think this tangent all started with Kevin McCoy's news, so it'll be interesting to see come Thursday. Sounds like Thursday or Friday, Thursday.
Thursday.
What news the PDGA has to announce?
Yep. Yeah. The only other talk people are on the board is about disc technology as far as chips being implanted into discs, and I think we're.
How long before we see that?
I think you'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if you see one by the end of next year, 2017. A regular.
So before or after 100,000 PDGA members?
After.
Okay.
After. I think that's. As I told everyone, I don't remember a lot of the details. I told someone Latitude. It might have been West Side. It was one of the trilogy. I got to throw one, and basically it measured. There was a little chip in the bottom, and this was a prototype. It basically measured your velocity, your arms, kind of your arm speed. It gave a nice kind of cool graph as far as all sorts of things. When him and I, the gentleman and I, talked about it, about all the different things that I thought they could do, and I gave them some what I thought were some really good suggestions that they hadn't thought of, and they had told me some things that I never thought of for sure. Like, oh wow, I never thought you would do something like that. And they showed me, and you could basically look at, if Terry threw it and then I threw it, you could compare graphs like, oh, I see Terry's backswing's way faster, but you're pausing here and this. And, it was some pretty cool technology. And I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day or in what form it will. But I would be willing to bet that from some manufacturer, we will see one standard built into a disc. Because right now you can still add things like you can glue one on or hot glue whatever onto the bottom of a disc. But I think there'll be one manufactured, or at least a disc manufacturer with a spot to put the chip or whatever it is by the end of next year. And I have no inside information because I'm not that high up in the world where anyone cares to tell me. But I think we'll end up seeing that soon.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw any of that with all the technology. I mean, we're gonna be having smart cars are gonna be driving themselves. Pretty soon, disc will be.
That'd be perfect. Just, hey, go over there. And just, there goes my roller.
That'd be pretty sweet.
That would be pretty sweet.
Maybe not. Is that the only real advancement we can see in disc technology at this point?
You mean that type? I mean, I think everybody wants to have a disc and have it tell them exactly how far they threw. But right now we don't have the technology small enough in GPS chips that are accurate enough, because even GPS is only good within 15 to 20 feet. So if it says 300, you may have thrown 320, you may have thrown 280. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. So I don't think it's worthwhile for disc distance to be measured like that. But yeah, I think that's really the next big leap in disc technology. I mean, we already have floating plastic. We have super light plastic. We have, we've got big rims and small rims, and I think that's really the next step, integrating it with some sort of smart app on your phone.
Well, it could certainly revolutionize some of our broadcasting and some of the details, depending on where that information goes. And it would be crazy to think about how it could be integrated into what we're doing. That would just be
And I'm trying to think of how that would even work, because you would have to actually, I can't even say anything, because I'm I promised that there was some information that I wasn't going to share with people. I have just that little bit from when I threw the prototype, some of the methodology on what they did, and I think I remember saying I wouldn't say anything until they were released. So, but I don't see how. I'll say this: I don't see how it could be integrated with us yet, but 3 years, I could see that. I could see that happening, depending on how that stuff is registered and how long that data is stored on whatever little chip is in there. And yeah, I don't know how you'd send that information to us. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought.
Okay, well, there's options. So we'll see where it goes from there. All right, Johnny, I think we can call it.
Yeah.
I think it's been a good night. We've had a lot of great interaction with a lot of awesome suggestions and ideas and people off the board, as always. I'd like to send a little shout out to our wonderful and amazing Zotron, who just celebrated a birthday.
Happy birthday, Zoe.
Albeit a little late on here, but yes, happy birthday to our beloved Zoe. And we know that we're going to be looking to integrate and use her a little bit more as the winter months rolls on and into 2017 and beyond. So hope all is well with her, and glad to wish her a happy birthday. So somebody came in with a new I think we have another fan.
I just blocked that fan.
Darn it, you already blocked him. He was man enough to have a different name and ask the exact same question last week, so that's how I know it's the same person.
Oh, nice.
So it's somebody with clearly a personal vendetta against me because I'm that cool. So looks like they're already gone, which is too bad. All right. So for all of our Smashies out there, we appreciate you guys sticking around with us and enjoying the show. Excited to hear what the PDGA did or is about to announce, and we'll follow up with that and see the exciting news thanks to Kevin McCoy's little leaked preview. And for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been podcast number 121's after show. Lots of random stuff for you guys to digest. We'll see you guys next week when you step inside the Smashbox.